Chapter 851. Sir, are you an athlete too? Coach Rodman asked. No, I'm a doctor, spiritualist, and part-time coach. If you have any broken arms or legs in the future, remember to visit my business. We're swimming, not playing basketball, football, or rugby. At most, it would be a sprain or cramp. Even if they drowned in the pool, they would not lose their arms or legs. Miss Amira, when can I receive the money? Amira's face was as cold as ice. She did not care about the $9 million. She only cared about being defeated by this man. And it was a crushing defeat. Most importantly, she was the one who started all of this. In 10 minutes, Amira turned and left. She was too ashamed to stay. Evely had reminded her so many times. She could not bear it anymore. Don't leave so fast. I was going to treat you to dinner. As long as it's not more than $100, you can eat whatever you want. Amira was so angry that she almost vomited blood. Chen Zhao had cheated her of $9 million. Could he not even pay $100? You've already won. Do you have to be so arrogant? Evely glared at him. You think I care about the $9 million? I want the thrill of a victor. Then give me the $9 million. I'll give you the thrill of a victor. Forget about the loser. I can't find any thrill of a victor on you. Amelia transferred the money to him as soon as possible. Her heart was bleeding when she transferred the money. However, she could imagine what the man's face would be like when he didn't receive the money. He would definitely think that she was a scoundrel. He would definitely be cursing her behind her back. Just then Amira received a phone call. Hello, General Manager. According to your request, we've transferred the valuables worth more than $1 million from our bank. But we need your signature. Okay, I'll go now. Amira was in a bad mood, but she still prioritized work. Because of what had happened in the bank, she had to wait until it was settled before she could reopen the bank. As for the valuables stored in the bank, they had to be temporarily transferred to other banks. Amira rushed to the bank's vault, where the staff were counting and packing the valuables. General Manager, this storage item is priced at $1 million, but the record type is unknown, the counting staff said as he pointed to a box. Unknown? Why is it priced at $1 million? A bank was not an insurance company. An insurance company could invest as much as it offered. However, the goods stored in the bank must be checked, and the goods must be genuine. After all, if anyone placed drugs and other contraband items in the bank for safekeeping, the bank would be in a lot of trouble. Who signed for the deposit? Vilya is in charge of signing the receipt. But she jumped off the building last time. Amira froze for a moment. Then who's the owner of the storage? It is also unknown. Also unknown. What are you doing? Amira was a little angry. She felt that this was too irresponsible. Open it for storage inspection, Yamala said. General Manager, I can't open it. It's not locked. Why can't I open it? Amira saw two people trying to open the lid of the box, but they couldn't. You guys come and help. Everyone came over to help. Some grabbed the box, while others pulled the lid. Just then a gap suddenly opened in the box. Then, a hand suddenly reached out from the box and grabbed the arms of the staff who were touching the box. What's going on? What's this? Help. Ah! A few staff members howled in pain. Amira was startled by the sudden turn of events. Just then the staff were directly pulled into the box. Amira was so shocked that she took 2 steps back and sat on the ground. The box was completely opened, and a golden stone rolled out from the box. No, it was not a stone, but a piece of gold. However, there was a strange aura lingering around the gold. When the gold came into contact with the ground began to corrode, and then it grew bigger and bigger. Soon, the corroded area had reached Amelia's face. Amira quickly stood up, turned around and ran. By then, a huge black hole had appeared on the ground, and it was still expanding. Amira was so scared that her face turned pale. She watched as the hole expanded to a diameter of more than 10 meters. Then, a suffocating sound spread out from the hole. Amira had long lost her ladylike and reserved demeanor. She scrambled out of the bank. What to do? What to do? Call the police? Could the police handle this situation? And if they did, then the bank's reputation would be completely ruined. I can't call the police. I definitely can't call the police. Amira's mind went blank. Right, Gaia? If it's her, there might be a way. Amira remembered that Gaia had used her phone to make a phone call. She still had that phone call. Hello? Hello? May I know who is this? I'm looking for Gaia. Gaia? Why didn't you call her phone? I don't have her number, Amira said hurriedly. Now is not the time to talk about this. You are exorcists, right? We're not exorcists. I have an evil spirit here. Citibank's Los Angeles headquarters, Amira said hurriedly. Come quickly, come quickly. What's going on? Are you sure it's an evil spirit? It's not your own guess? Amira hurriedly told them the whole story. You're saying that all the supernatural incidents in Citibank's Los Angeles headquarters are caused by that piece of gold? Yes, it must be. Everyone who touched that piece of gold has met with an accident. All right, we'll send someone over. Fortunately, Amira had listened to Gaia's suggestion and closed for the day. If they were open for business today, including the hundreds of people in the office building upstairs, how many people would have died? Just thinking about it sent chills down Amira's spine. It was too scary. Now, she could only hope that Gaia and the others could send reinforcements and solve the problem as soon as possible. Suddenly, Amira felt her body stiffen. It was as if something had crawled into her body. Amira could clearly feel it. Then Amira realized that she had lost control of her body and was walking inwards. Chapter 852. Step by step, Amira walked deeper into the bank. Someone save me? Amira wanted to scream, but she had already lost control of her body. She couldn't even make a sound, let alone escape. Amira could already see the huge pit that had been formed by the gold ingot. Amira walked to the front of the pit and saw a bubbling pool of green liquid in the pit. A hand stretched out from the pool. The arm had no skin and was filled with a rotten and suffocating stench. Amira's scalp was about to explode. She was extremely nervous at the moment. The liquid in the pool was decreasing, and the thing inside was revealing more of its body. A mummy? Amira stared at the thing in confusion. It was a humanoid figure, but its body was wrapped in sparse bandages. Most of the bandages, however, had been torn off, leaving it exposed, just like its right arm. Its body was covered in green liquid, which kept dripping from the bandages. The gold ingot was embedded in the mummy's chest. The bandages on the mummy's body suddenly shot out and wrapped themselves around a nearby pillar. Then, the mummy's body was hoisted out of the pit. The mummy waddled over to Amira. The bandages began to bind Amira's hands and feet, pulling her towards the mummy. Amira prayed in her heart. Suddenly, a loud noise came from behind. A flash of fire came from behind, brushing past Amira's ear. Boom! The flash of fire exploded on the mummy's body, and the mummy immediately collapsed. At the same time, Amira's body regained its freedom. Amira turned and ran. She saw that Gaia had arrived. Amira had never been so excited and touched before. Amira ran behind Gaia. Gaia's expression was solemn. Let's go. The two ran out of the bank and found that the outside was covered in fog. Visibility was very low. Just then, the mummy started to stroll out of the bank. Within the fog, the figures of evil spirits were constantly flashing and moving about. Amira's nerves tightened, and she pulled on the corner of Gaia's clothes tightly. Suddenly, a figure dashed out of the fog. More rushed towards the mummy and hugged it with both arms. Boom! A suicide attack. Amira was dumbfounded. What just happened? A child launching a suicide attack on a mummy? My companions are here, Gaia said. West and the others finally arrived. Suddenly, a figure appeared beside Amira. Amelia was startled. Help! Don't be afraid, little girl. Pamela's figure flickered as she glanced at Amira. She's with us, Gaia said. That guy won't die, Moer said. West came to Gaia. What's the situation now? That's the mummy. From Egypt. I don't know where he is, but he looks like he's from Egypt, Gaia said. This guy is scary. It controls tens of thousands of evil spirits. Pamela looked around. The entire area is covered in an evil spirit fog. Where did it come from? Controlling tens of thousands of evil spirits? I don't think there are that many evil spirits in all of Los Angeles, right? I am Abaddon. The mummy finally spoke. Everyone's mind went blank. Whether it was Amira or Gaia's group, they had all heard of this name. In the Book of Revelation there was such a passage. The fifth angel blew a horn. A giant star fell from the sky and crashed onto the ground, creating a bottomless abyss. Immediately, thick smoke rose from the abyss, covering the sky and darkening the world. The abyss was like a huge furnace. Locusts flew out of the smoke. These locusts had the faces of men and women. They specifically attacked people who weren't marked by God. The locusts wouldn't kill people directly. Instead, they tortured them to death. The master of the locusts was this great demon king Abaddon, the dark angel of death and plague. He controlled life and death, spreading plague and fear. Everyone felt chills run down their spines. Abaddon? How could they defeat such a terrifying demon? Abaddon's footsteps swayed as he walked toward the group. Gaia yelled, and the flames on her body suddenly exploded. She leaped high and slashed at Abaddon. Without even looking up, Abaddon shot the bandages on his body at Gaia. He bound her limbs and smashed her to the ground. Gaia was defeated in one move. Gaia stood up again, wanting to charge at Abaddon again. But two evil spirits darted out of the mist and pierced through Gaia's back. Gaia spat out a mouthful of blood. Gaia, come back. We can't beat him, Wes shouted. We have to wait for the president. We can't beat a demon of this level alone. When is he coming? I can't get through. The signal interference here is very bad. Let's hide first, Wes said. We can't fight him here. You can't hide, Abaddon said. This is my territory. You have nowhere to hide. Think of something. Quick, think of a way. Amelia was already crying out of fear. When had she ever experienced something so terrifying? In fact, she wasn't the only one. Everyone from the supernatural organization also felt cold. The enemy this time wasn't an ordinary one. It was a demon king from hell. Chen Zhao was still training Evely in the swimming pool. Suddenly, Chen Zhao's phone rang. Chen Zhao's phone rang. It was Sienna. Chen, something big happened. What happened? A huge source of mana has appeared in Air Bay. Fog has covered Air Bay, and evil spirits are constantly rushing out of the fog. Air Bay. Yes. All the spiritualists in L.A. are heading there now. Since so many have gone, I don't think I need to go. Cheryl and I plan to go too, but Cheryl can't fight at all. She's curled up like a frightened wolf cub. Chen Zhao frowned. Cheryl could sense danger, but she was so scared. But why was Cheryl so scared? What was in Air Bay? The mist is spreading, Sienna said. If we can't stop it, it might cover all of LA. Okay, I'll think of something. After hanging up, Chen Zhao called West. He couldn't get through? He tried calling Gaia again, but it still didn't go through. He tried calling an elite Jalag and the others, but he couldn't get through. They couldn't have already run into the fog, right? Chapter 853. Lee, is dinner ready? Ethan slumped before the counter weakly. If I don't eat, I feel like I'm going to die. Just then, Li Qing walked out from inside. Ignoring Ethan, she walked to the door and looked into the distance. Lee, is dinner ready? Li Qing was still looking into the distance. After a while, she turned around and looked at Ethan. Mr. Ethan, I need to go out. Dinner is in the kitchen. Go get it yourself. Where are you going? Li Qing didn't speak. Instead, she went back to her room to change. She even took a sword. Ethan looked at her in shock. Lee, where are you going? Mr. Ethan, can I borrow your car? Okay. Ethan looked at Li Qing's expression and her outfit. Are you going to a costume party? Li Qing's expression was stern and cold. Her eyes were like torches. Ethan had never seen Li Qing like this. Her domineering aura was like an unsheathed sword. How come I didn't realize that Li is so pretty before? My dear master, that place is too dangerous. Don't go there. It's different this time. There's a terrifying demon hidden in the fog, Simon said in fear. Harisha looked at the fog in the distance. The Witch Assassin Union has issued a mission. I have to go. Otherwise, my identity will be taken away. That's still better than going there to die. We can't defeat the demon inside, Simon said. You can leave now. No, Simon said seriously. I already swore to protect you forever. Even if you go to the toilet, I'll accompany you. You'd better die right now. Rupert, bring this and that too. Camilla followed beside Rupert and kept reminding her. And this wand? Teacher, are you sure you want me to bring a wand that's longer than me? You have to. This wand can greatly increase your magic power, Camilla said. Teacher, what's inside? You've never been so nervous before. I don't know what's inside, but that thing makes me feel fear. Chen will go, right? Even Chen might not be able to defeat the thing inside this time. Even he can't defeat him? Is it that scary? Yes, I feel a huge source of mana. It's a feeling I've never felt before. It's 100 times stronger than the ghost ship I've fought before. Is it really that scary? This isn't something that a single person can defeat. If that thing isn't handled properly, it's likely to kill everyone in Los Angeles. Chen Zhao felt uneasy on the way back. When they got home, Fei Lai didn't look too good. Fei Lai, what's wrong? I don't know why, but I just feel uncomfortable all over. Chen Zhao glanced at the little demon beside Fei Lai. It seemed to be very anxious. Master, we felt a huge magical power in that direction, King Kong said, pointing in the direction of Air Bay. We felt a huge magical power in that direction. Even they felt it. It's probably some big demon's power leaking into this world, Samuel said. He's starting to pollute the world. I hate this feeling. I hate when people steal my things. Won't such a powerful demon's power be suppressed by the human laws if it leaks into this world? Chen Zhao asked. I don't know how he did it. Just then Chen Zhao's phone rang. It was Warrencom. Chen Zhao picked it up. Hi Chen, Warrencom said. Looks like we'll have a chance to fight side by side again. Won't you consider joining the Holy Knights? You know too? Our satellite detected a huge and terrifying source of mana in the northwest of LA. It's filled with an evil aura. Fuck, you Holy Knights have satellites? Yes, join us. We're rich. Not only do we have satellites, but we also have a lot of high-tech equipment. Do you have spaceships? No. When you have a spaceship, Chen Zhao said. Call me to join. After hanging up, Chen Zhao planned to go out too. Fei Lai, I'm going out later. Be careful. Fei Lai seemed to have sensed something. Don't worry. This time Chen Zhao brought Beelzebub, Raymond, Carrie, Blackie, Abitos, King Kong, Black Ma, White Ma and Samuel. He brought all the demons with him. Chen Zhao didn't know what was inside or what was inside. We better think of a strategy, Chen Zhao said. All the demons surrounded Chen Zhao. The car slowly stopped outside Irwin. Just then, all the demons around Chen Zhao started mutating. They were going back to their original forms. Usually, this would happen when they were in a spatial crevice. In other words, they were in a spatial crevice right now. By now, Chen Zhao's demon servants were no longer in their ordinary forms. Except for one demon, Samuel. Unless this was a demonic territory created by another demon king. Otherwise, it was impossible to reduce the suppression of laws on him. Okay, disperse. Chen Zhao waved his hand. All the demons dispersed. They each searched for the main source of pollution. When they found it, they would call Chen Zhao over. On the other hand, Chen Zhao carried Samuel and walked in the mist. Blackie followed beside Chen Zhao. It should be Abaddon's power, Samuel said. Abaddon? What's his background? A level 2 demon king. It's the same level as the king of ice and snow. It has the ability to spread plagues and curses. It also controls countless evil spirits, Samuel said. Are you saying that I'm going to face a demon king this time? If it's a demon king, I can turn around and leave right now. I can't win at all, okay? It's not a demon king, Samuel said. His power can't seep into the human world. It should be Abaddon's subordinate. It should be a mid-level demon and not the main body. Just then, an evil spirit pounced at Chen Zhao. Blackie swept past, and the evil spirit turned into ashes. Just then, a figure ran out of the mist. Help, help! Chen Zhao took a closer look. Wasn't that Amira? Chapter 854. Why are you here? Eyes wide, Amira stared at Chen Zhao in shock. Looking at Chen Zhao's arms, he was actually holding a kitten. Taking a walk. Amira held her forehead. Take a walk. Are you taking a walk to heaven? You're taking a walk here? Can I? Don't you want to see the situation here? Here. What's wrong? You're just going into the fog. Great, Chen Zhao said. It's rare for L.A. to have fog like this, especially at night. Amira was speechless. She'd never seen someone so careless. Forget it. She couldn't care less about his life now. She couldn't even protect herself now. She couldn't save anyone else either. Suddenly, an evil spirit charged out of the fog. The evil spirit only had one head, but it was many times larger than an ordinary evil spirit. Ah! Amira broke into a run. In the blink of an eye, she disappeared into the fog. Amira looked back. Chen Zhao hadn't followed. The evil spirit hadn't caught up either. Amira was very tired. She'd been running for a long time. Just then Amira heard crying. She saw the figure of a child in the fog. Amira went forward trying to pull the child back. However, she realized that the child had already disappeared with the wind. "Sister, are you looking for me?" Amira heard the child's voice. Looking back, she saw the child lying on her back. The child was covered in blood. Amira was paralyzed with fear. "Ah, come down, come down." Suddenly a sword flashed. Amira saw the child's head cut off by the sword. A strangely dressed woman strolled over, holding a sharp sword. She wasn't young. Her hair was white, but she gave Amira a very special feeling. Elegant. That's right, elegant. The woman's face was as cold as ice and her aura was as cold as the wind. She swung the sword at the fog. The fog around them was swept away. The evil spirit hidden in the fog also let out a wail. It was Li Qing. "Amazing!" Amira exclaimed. But at that moment a huge figure rushed out of the fog. It was a giant monster with dozens of skulls on its neck. Its body was 6 to 7 meters tall, and its huge fist smashed down towards the woman. Li Qing's expression changed as he hurriedly dodged. Although her spiritual power was strong, her physical resistance was relatively weak. This kind of monster was the last thing she was good at. The dozens of skulls on the skeletal monster's neck let out a rattling sound. But at that moment, another black shadow appeared in the fog. It was even bigger than the giant skeleton monster. Amelia trembled in fear, while Li Qing's expression froze as she stared vigilantly at the mist. Finally, the fog was abruptly smashed open. A snake! A 5-flowered python broke through the mist. It was a 5-flower python that was more than 30 meters long. It bit the giant skeleton monster. Raymond came. He inhaled, and the skeleton monster's body started to turn into powder, which Raymond sucked into his mouth. Li Qing looked at the unbelievably huge snake warily. Raymond glanced at Li Qing, then at Amelia. Then he slipped back into the fog. Not an enemy? Li Qing did not sense any hostility from the terrifying snake. Just then something seemed to fall from the sky. Boom! A rotting evil beast descended from the sky. However, there was also a mountain gorilla on top of it. Amelia watched in shock as the two beasts fought. The mountain gorilla held a huge hammer with both arms and smashed it hard on the beast's body. With one hit, half of the beast's body was smashed. But in the next instant, another rotting beast pounced out of the fog, pinning the mountain gorilla to the ground. The mountain gorilla kicked upwards, and the rotting beast was kicked into the air. The mountain gorilla did a home run, swinging the hammer with one arm and smashing the rotting beast away. Amelia's heart was pounding as she watched the mountain gorilla fight against the rotting beasts that kept appearing. It looked dangerous, but the mountain gorilla was clearly much stronger. Even though it was one against many, it still had the upper hand. Li Qing was also watching from the side, but she could not intervene. The mountain gorilla was obviously on her side. Just then, Amelia felt someone pulling her from behind. The two evil spirits were dragging her away at high speed. Li Qing watched as Amelia was dragged away, disappearing into the fog in the blink of an eye. Even if she wanted to lend a helping hand, there was nothing she could do. Amelia was terrified. Suddenly, a white shadow flashed past. Amelia had already been snatched away by the white shadow. She was placed on the ground by the white shadow. Amelia looked up. It was a huge snow-white beast that was 10 meters long. The snow-white beast had a long, thin mane and was completely spotless. Amelia had seen too many unbelievable things that night, so she was no longer as shocked as before. The newcomer was naturally a home, without the suppression of the laws. Carrie breathed out a breath of cold air into the sky. Huge chunks of ice kept falling from the sky. Every piece of ice that fell had an evil spirit sealed within it. Amelia felt that the snow-white beast was incredible. But just then, more evil spirits appeared around them. Hundreds of evil spirits surrounded Carrie. Amelia could not help but worry for the silver-white beast. Could this silvery white beast deal with so many evil spirits? Whoosh! Suddenly, a streak of fire descended from the sky. Amelia rubbed her eyes. What did she just see? Dragon. The legendary fire dragon. Carrie and Abitos, who had rushed over, had their backs to each other. They breathed out cold air and dragon breath at the same time, circling around them. Shock was written all over Amelia's face. She felt like she was living in a myth. Suddenly, a foul stench assaulted them. Amelia was no stranger to this smell. That thing was coming. She saw Abaddon swaying his body in the fog, walking in their direction. Carrie and Abitos both looked wary. The next moment, bandages shot out of the fog, binding Carrie and Abitos. Abaddon appeared in front of Amelia again. Amelia felt her hair stand on end. Abaddon sprayed a mouthful of green liquid at Amelia. You're dead. The next moment, Amelia suddenly felt someone pull her collar, dodging the green liquid. Amelia looked up. It was Chen Zhao. Chen Zhao was carrying Amelia with one hand and holding the cat with the other. Hi, Miss Amelia, we meet again. You're not dead? Is this how you greet people in your hometown? Didn't you notice the situation here? Amelia asked excitedly. Did you forget that I'm a spiritualist? Chapter 855. At this moment, another unfamiliar giant beast appeared. It was Beelzebub's glutton. Right now, he was opening his bloody mouth and continuously absorbing the surrounding mist. This made his body even more bloated. It also made the surrounding air cleaner. Carrie and Abitos released ice power and fire dragon power directly, breaking the bandages on them. King Kong also charged out of the mist. Amelia's breathing quickened. He stared intently at the divine beast surrounding Abaddon in all shapes and sizes. Should we move further away? Amira asked. Just then Gaia walked out of the mist. At this moment, Gaia was covered in wounds, and he had to use his greatsword to move his body. Chen, you're finally here. Gaia, you're so pitiful. You know each other? Amira asked in surprise. Guild leader, you're finally here. West ran out of nowhere. You're their president? Amira was even more surprised. President, Fire Dragon and King Kong are yours. I don't think I've seen the others before. They're also my pets. You've seen Beelzebub, Carrie and Raymond. Puff, Gaia and West gaped at him in disbelief. These three were Beelzebub, Carrie and Raymond? In their minds, these three had always been different from the other pets in Chen Zhao's family. They were too small. Even Raymond, who was 3 meters long, was very ordinary. He actually looked about the same size as the king cobra. But now they realized, Beelzebub, Raymond and Carrie's true forms were actually so terrifying. What about Black Ma and White Ma? West asked. Speak of the devil. The two large dogs were hanging on a 3-meter-tall zombie monster and rolling into the field. Master will deal with this thing soon. Black Ma and White Ma usually bullied the weak and feared the strong. Even though they'd entered this demonic territory, they hadn't improved much. This was because they were in their original forms. They still had the same strength as before. Moreover, their strength wasn't reflected in their combat ability. So the result was that they couldn't even kill this zombie monster. Raymond, Beelzebub, Abitos, Carrie and King Kong formed a circle around Abaddon. Abaddon was the first to attack. The bandages on his body instantly shot out in all directions. In an instant, the 5 demons were bound at the same time. However, the 5 demons were not small in size. And of course their strength was not small either. This was especially true for King Kong, whose only ability was power. This also caused Abaddon to be unable to completely suppress the 5 demons immediately. Just then, Samuel said from Chen Zhao's arms, "These 5 idiots." Hearing that, Chen Zhao couldn't help but frown. What happened? Have you forgotten Abaddon's subordinate powers? Plague and death, Samuel said. Just then Carrie went down first. There were dark green marks on her body, where the bandages had touched. Then Beelzebub and Abitos fell too. Then it was King Kong and Raymond. They were all affected by the plague released by Abaddon. Everyone's expression changed instantly. Even Chen Zhao's pets couldn't defeat Abaddon? Abaddon looked at Chen Zhao and Amelia. Immediately, Abaddon spat out a large amount of green liquid. The green liquid shot toward Chen Zhao and Amelia. The dark serum formed a wall, blocking Abaddon's green liquid. Then, the dark serum spread from the ground to Abaddon's feet and pulled him into the shadows. Abaddon struggled a few times, but he couldn't break free. The more he struggled, the faster he sank. Amila stared at Chen Zhao in shock. So powerful. This was the first time she saw someone who could fight Abaddon head-on. Just when Chen Zhao thought that the battle would end in such a simple way, the surrounding evil spirits started gathering toward Abaddon. Blackie, stop them, Chen Zhao shouted. Blackie did his best to kill the evil spirits that were approaching Abaddon. However, there were still some that slipped through the net. With each evil spirit Abaddon absorbed, he became stronger. The more difficult it was for Chen Zhao to control the dark serum. Everyone stared at Chen Zhao in disbelief. They couldn't see Blackie, so they could only see hundreds of evil spirits disintegrating. Those ferocious evil spirits would often disappear for no apparent reason. Abaddon finally broke free from Chen Zhao's shadows. At this moment, Abaddon had grown a lot. He looked like a mummy of a superstar. Chen Zhao took out his bronze sword. Facing Abaddon, he didn't dare to be careless. He also had to fight in his strongest state. Abaddon's bandages also formed the shape of a sword. With the addition of demonic power, it turned into a huge green sword. Abaddon raised the huge green sword and smashed it down at Chen Zhao's head. Amila's face was already pale. Chen Zhao blocked with his bronze sword. Bang! The ground around them shattered, but the two were evenly matched. Although Abaddon and Chen Zhao's size was very different, the difference in strength wasn't obvious. The huge green sword and the bronze sword collided. They were still wrestling. Amila's face was filled with shock. She looked at Chen Zhao in disbelief. She didn't expect that Chen Zhao, who had always been frivolous in front of her, could actually fight with Abaddon. Chen Zhao suddenly exerted force and pushed Abaddon's huge green sword away. Abaddon staggered back a few steps. He used the same trick again and sprayed large amounts of green liquid at Chen Zhao. The mouth of gluttony sucked in all the green liquid. The next moment, it condensed into a sphere and shot out. Abaddon was hit by his own attack and was knocked back. Everyone watched Chen Zhao and Abaddon's battle in shock. The dark serum started covering Chen Zhao's body. Chen Zhao could feel that Abaddon's strength wasn't weaker than his. So he had to decide the winner as soon as possible. Chen Zhao turned black. Of course, it was only on the surface. After the dark state, Chen Zhao's strength increased again. As for the bronze sword, mana was completely poured into it, covering the surface of the bronze sword with a layer of sword aura. Chen Zhao strode forward and Abaddon raised his sword again. Chen Zhao slashed heavily and Abaddon's huge green sword was instantly broken. Everyone's jaws dropped as they looked at Chen Zhao in disbelief. Chapter 856. The heart of the sword was like iron, the body like fire, and the aura like a rainbow. It landed on Abaddon's head. Abaddon's huge body was split in half. The place where the blade passed burned. The power of this attack was so great. Everyone couldn't close their mouths. They stared blankly at Chen Zhao's back and Abaddon, who had been split in half. Just as everyone was still shocked by the power of Chen Zhao's attack, Abaddon's body, that had been split in half, actually started to fuse back together. Everyone's expression changed. They couldn't kill this demon even with this? Chen, aren't you going to stop him? Gaia asked. No need, Chen Zhao said calmly. I want an opponent of equal strength. I want a fair fight. You have a backup plan? Gaia asked, confused. She naturally had nothing to say about Chen Zhao's strength. But what left the deepest impression on her, and the members of the association, was Chen Zhao's ability to play dirty tricks. She didn't believe Chen Zhao's words. What did he mean by having an opponent of equal strength? When he said this, it usually meant that he already had victory in his hands. He wouldn't have any thoughts of a fair fight. No, Chen Zhao said seriously. I really want to have a fair fight with him, as long as he still has the ability. Gaia rolled her eyes. She wouldn't believe it even if someone beat her to death. Abaddon's body fused back together. But as soon as he took a step, his body started to become unnatural. Then everyone saw Abaddon kneel on the ground. One of his legs started emitting sparks from the inside out. Then his entire body started to emit flames. Thud! Abaddon fell to the ground, unable to resist at all. Chen Zhao just threw angelic crystals into Abaddon's body when he was cut open. For a demon, angelic crystal damage was permanent. It was like a radioactive substance being stuffed into a person's body. Back then, Chen Zhao had stuffed a perfect angelic crystal into Logan Samuel's mouth. Logan Samuel was a demon lord. He was many times stronger than Abaddon, but he'd still been tortured to death. Abaddon couldn't possibly endure such pain and torture. This Abaddon in front of him was not the true messenger of plague and death, nor was he the demon king Abaddon. Instead, he was just a projection of a subordinate demon like Beelzebub, Raymond and Carrie. However, his main body should be stronger than the three of them. Chen Zhao watched as Abaddon's body was burned to ashes. He saw a piece of demon gold on the ground. Chen Zhao could not help but frown. He was no stranger to the shape of this piece of demon gold, because the demon gold on Mikasa Island was just like this piece of gold. However, that gold wasn't as evil as this piece of devil gold. Seeing that Chen Zhao was about to pick up the demonic gold, Amira hurriedly shouted, "Don't touch it. This gold is very evil. That demon was released by it." Chen Zhao picked up the demon gold unconcernedly. As expected, the moment he picked up the demonic gold, a wave of demonic power tried to seep into his body. However, the evil demonic energy was quickly devoured by the mouth of gluttony. The mist gradually dispersed. Abito's, Raymond, Carrie, King Kong, and Beelzebub's bodies also started to return to normal. "Do you know where this piece of gold came from?" Chen Zhao asked. "No. Someone deposited it in our bank, but I don't know who it is exactly. Those who know have already committed suicide, or were killed by this thing." Amira did not dare to approach the demonic gold. "President, are all the disasters caused by this piece of gold?" "I don't know. I'll bring it back and study it." Chen Zhao had no clue now. After sending Beelzebub and the others to the car, he asked West to deal with the aftermath. This incident was huge, but West should have a way to deal with it. "Samuel, are Beelzebub and the others okay?" Chen Zhao asked. "They're all demons and have strong resistance," Samuel said nonchalantly. "The plague did damage them temporarily, but they'll recover soon." "Samuel, do you know what's going on? This method of summoning demons into the human world is too special." "I never knew there was such a method," Samuel said. "But your method of summoning demons is also special. Every time you summon a demon, you'll form an alliance with it. The Abaddon we met today is completely uncontrolled. He's also a projection, but he doesn't have a consciousness. He completely pollutes the area on his own." Raymond was the first to wake up. He was a snake, and had the highest resistance to poison. Then it was Beelzebub's turn. Since he ate everything, no matter what entered his body, he could quickly produce antibodies. When they returned home, Fei Lai saw Chen Zhao. "Chen, did you go to save the world again?" Is it Irvine this time?" "How do you know?" "The news said that there was a chemical leak, so they've temporarily sealed it. It was said that pregnant women became dumb for 3 years." Chen Zhao felt that Fei Lai was getting smarter. However, Fei Lai had a good point. She never asked too many questions. "Andrews, give me your Chinese client's information." Andrews was a bit surprised. He didn't understand why Amira wanted Chen Zhao's information. "What's he doing recently?" Amira asked. "He wants to buy the land where he lives. It's about 12 square kilometers." "What's the price?" "It used to be about $20 million, but the local government has lowered it to $15 million. "Continue bargaining," Amira said. "Our bank can cooperate with you in any way. Also, tell me the final price." "I'll cover 50%. Andrews gasped. What was the relationship between the Chinese and Amira? Amira was actually willing to pay half the price for him? Was their relationship that good? "What did Mr. Chen say?" Andrews asked. "Just say half the price. Just say that it's the result of your bargaining. Don't let him know that I'm paying half the price," Amira said. Andrews was even more confused. He didn't know what Amira was trying to do. However, it seemed that they had a close relationship. He definitely couldn't afford to offend them. It seemed that he had made the right bet by choosing this Chinese as his client. Chapter 857. Mr. Chen, we've already discussed the price of the land you want to buy. "Oh, what price?" "6 million. "What? Say it again. How much? 6 million. Are you kidding me? Chen Zhao exclaimed. 6 million? In Chen Zhao's opinion, 15 million was about the price. It was basically impossible to go any lower. But Andrews told him that he only had to pay 6 million. Chen Zhao felt that it was really a joke. Of course, Andrews said. The mountain town government wants to apply for an 80 million loan from our bank, but their mortgage is a bit low, so it's hard to approve. So you're using the loan as a bargaining chip? Yes, Andrews said. Mr. Chen, when are you free to come over and sign the land purchase contract? I'm free anytime. How about now? Sure. When Chen Zhao went to Irvine, he realized that the Los Angeles headquarters of Citibank was being renovated. But the office upstairs was still working normally. Although there had been a series of changes, the interior of the bank wasn't affected. This was understandable. After all, with Citibank's power, it wasn't hard to suppress this matter. It was not difficult to suppress this matter. For them, if the gaffe continued to worsen, their business would be affected. Even if it was just the L.A. branch, the loss of a day's work would be huge. Chen Zhao found Andrew's office. Hello, Mr. Chen. Hello. This is the land purchase contract. Please take a look. If there are no problems, you can sign it. Chen Zhao read it word by word. After confirming that there were no problems, he signed it. Mr. Chen, are you familiar with our general manager? Chen Zhao thought for a moment. I just scammed 9 million from her 2 days ago. Is that familiar? Andrews was astonished. You cheated her of $9 million? That wasn't right. If they were enemies, why would Amira help Chen Zhao pay 50% of the land purchase price? Andrews couldn't figure it out. He had indeed discovered that 9 million had suddenly been transferred to Chen Zhao's bank account 2 days ago. But he quickly gave up on guessing. He really couldn't figure it out. So that land is mine now, right? Chen Zhao asked. Theoretically, Andrews said. But legally, we have to wait for the notary office's result. Chen Zhao nodded. When he'd bought Mirror Lake, he'd waited 2 or 3 months to get the deed. Buying land in America was rather simple. He didn't have to go everywhere. It was to sign the contract and pay the money, then send it to the notary office, and finally the Land Bureau to issue the land deed. The banking system in the United States was more complete than that in China. Therefore, their business was more detailed and safer. Chen Zhao wasn't worried that something would go wrong with the bank. Just then Amira walked over. Mr. Chen, I'm Chen, she said. Zhao, she said. Chen, Zhao said. Chen said. Zhao, you said. You don't have to apologize. If you still want to bet next time, remember to find me. I'll be there anytime. Chen Chen Shi Chen. Chen 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 no. Chen. Amira was so angry that her nose was crooked, but she still maintained a smile on her face. Andrews was even more confused. Why was Amira apologizing to Chen Zhao after losing $9 million? After that, Chen Zhao went to train Evely. Evely's price wasn't low. Chen Zhao had to try his best. Chen, are you coming to the Celebrity Invitational on November 25th? Evely asked, leaning against the shore. Where? Montreal, Canada. I'm not sure. Chen Zhao couldn't give a definite answer. He had to ask Fei Lai's opinion. November 25th would be the start of winter in Canada. The temperature was 20 degrees lower than in LA. If Fei Lai wasn't willing to go, Chen Zhao didn't want to leave her side. It wasn't that Chen Zhao had to stick to Fei Lai. She was pregnant now. Chen Zhao wanted to stay by her side and take care of her. Besides, his girlfriend was pregnant, and he was staying at home. He went out to watch another woman's competition. No matter how he thought about it, it was not a good thing. If Fei Lai was interested in going to Canada for a vacation, Chen Zhao would go. If she wasn't, Chen Zhao wouldn't go either. Okay. If you want to go, call me in advance. I'll reserve a ticket for you. Okay. Chen Zhao nodded. When he returned home, Chen Zhao found Fei Lai moving the wine. Fei Lai, what are you doing? Hurry up and go upstairs. Chen Zhao quickly stopped her. I saw that it's been here for a long time, so I think it should be ready. Leave the heavy work to me in the future. If I'm not home, let King Kong do it. It's strong, Chen Zhao said. Step back. When you open the wine for the first time, It'll release some gases that aren't good for the human body. There's also a small chance that it'll explode. Fei Lai looked at Chen Zhao. She felt that he was being too careful. Ever since she got pregnant, Chen Zhao had been a bit overprotective of her. Actually, she wasn't that weak. She didn't need any special care. Chen Zhao opened a barrel of wine. The fragrance filled the air. So fragrant. Chen Zhao took a deep breath. Next was filtering and bottling. Generally, high-grade wines needed to be filtered for a second time before they could be bottled. Chen Zhao didn't have to teach the inferior demons these steps. They probably knew better than Chen Zhao what to do. In the next half a day, Chen Zhao, Fei Lai, and the family started to work around the wine. Fei Lai wanted to do her part, so she also helped during the bottling process. The inferior demons were anxious. Not only did Fei Lai steal their work, she didn't do it as well as they did. But they didn't dare to speak. Chen Zhao's murderous gaze. If they said anything more, Chen Zhao would stuff them into the toilet. Chen Zhao bought the bottles. They were regular wine bottles. Each bottle was about 750 milliliters. In the end, there were around 1,000 bottles. Because wine went bad more easily than other grain wines, it had to be sealed better. Chen Zhao and Fei Lai looked at their results with satisfaction, even though the inferior demons had done most of the work. The next step was to preserve it and give it as a gift. Chen, send a few bottles to Mom and Dad, Fei Lai said. Got it. Chapter 858. Planting Trees. These 2 days, Fei Lai had fallen in love with planting trees again. Now the plants around the house were quite dense. Chen Zhao and Fei Lai had also realized Robio's original idea of covering the house with a few meters of land. Eugenist's control over the soil had extended to every square meter of land. He could distribute nutrients to every inch of soil, so that all the plants could receive sufficient nutrients. However, because of the new land area, there was still a large piece of land that was abandoned. As Fei Lai's belly gradually bulged, her stamina dropped too. Chen Zhao and King Kong were in charge of plowing the land while the kids dug holes. Fei Lai planted the saplings again. This time, she mainly planted beech and oak trees. When these 2 plants matured, they would have very beautiful tree shapes. At the same time, they wouldn't be too dense, leaving some light for the forest. In the future, it wouldn't be too hard for him and Fei Lai to play in the forest. After half a day, the family had only planted half an acre of land. There were only around 20 trees in total. Of course, the underlings would take care of the rest. Other than planting trees, Chen Zhao also planned to build a wine cellar in his house. Of course, he would let the underlings build it too. However, the 10 underlings in the house clearly weren't enough to build a wine cellar. So Chen Zhao chose 10 new underlings. At noon, Chen Zhao received a call from Winnip. Chen, did you make the wine yourself again? Winnip asked. Yes, why? Give me 1,000 bottles and sell them in my supermarket, Winnip said. Chen Zhao smiled bitterly. He hadn't thought about making money from selling wine. There was a limited amount of wine. There were only around 1,000 bottles. Those who gave gifts would give the rest to the guests. They definitely wouldn't be able to finish it. But if they sold it, a few hundred bottles was too little. Plus, he and Fei Lai had worked so hard to make the wine. He didn't think that selling it for tens of thousands of dollars was worth their effort. Chen, my friends really like your wine. They're willing to buy it for $60,000 per bottle. Chen Zhao almost choked. $60,000 per bottle? That's right, $60,000 per bottle. They really like your wine. Not everyone was willing to spend a few $1,000,000 for the purple brew. As long as the quality of the wine was good, it would be popular. Even some middle-class families would be willing to buy it. There's too little of this wine. Fei Lai and I only brewed 1,000 bottles. We've given more than 200 bottles to our friends, so there's only about 800 left. We also have to keep some for ourselves and entertain guests. You treat your guests with this kind of wine. Winnip was going crazy. The last time she used this wine to entertain a few business partners, she didn't expect them to like this wine so much. Everyone was asking if there was any way to buy this wine. This also made her see a business opportunity. She felt that this was another way to attract customers into her supermarket. After all, Mara's supermarket was now very famous. and the world's best wine was always on display in her supermarket. Of course, after that day, Winnip didn't open another bottle. Laurent, Howard, Kareem, and King complained that she didn't even want to drink it herself. But Chun Zhao had actually left a few hundred bottles at home. This wasn't extravagance. This was squandering. If you keep 50 bottles, you might not finish it in a year, right? In Winnip's opinion, Chun Zhao and Fei Lai couldn't drink a bottle every day. After all, it wasn't beer that they could drink every day. Beer was for the enjoyment, while wine was for the atmosphere. If Chun Zhao and Fei Lai had a candlelight dinner, they might not finish it even after opening a bottle. Therefore, there was more than enough to keep 50 bottles. At least, that was what Winnip thought. I still have to entertain guests. I have a lot of guests at home. I'm not talking to you. I'll call Fei Lai. A while later, Fei Lai came to Chun Zhao's side. Chun, I plan to sell 500 bottles of wine in Mom's supermarket. Why? Fei Lai looked at Chun Zhao. I haven't even contributed to the family. Chun Zhao didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Darling, you're thinking too much. I've never cared about this. We're a family. Is there a need to care about who earns more and who earns less? Fei Lai looked at Chun Zhao stubbornly. This might be her only chance to increase the family's income. Fei Lai felt that she should insist. Fine, fine, Chun Zhao replied helplessly. Actually, he also felt that 700 or 800 bottles of wine were too much. It was really too much. In the end, he still had to give it away. Since Fei Lai had this thought, he'd just let her have it. Dad, I'm back. Ken sat down on a chair. What's so fragrant? Is it this wine? It's the wine Chun brewed himself. Have a sip. Bant enjoyed a mouthful. I don't drink wine, Ken said unconcerned. I didn't drink wine before either, Ken said. But I've completely fallen in love with wine now, Bant said. You really don't want a glass? Air. Is it really that good? Ken knew that his father was like him. He usually only drank whiskey, vodka, or beer. He always looked down on wine. Ken was also influenced by his father, so he never liked wine. But how did his father fall in love with wine in less than half a month? Of course. You've definitely never tasted such good wine before. It's just wine. It's not like I've never tasted it before. How good can it be? Ken was about to pick up the bottle when Bant stopped him. Stop. I'm going to enjoy it slowly. Bant poured Ken a glass and Ken drank it in one gulp. Instantly, the rich wine aroma filled his mouth. Ken felt that all the cells in his mouth had come alive, greedily absorbing the wine. His lips and teeth were filled with the lingering taste of the grapes. Too beautiful, truly too beautiful. Dad, give me another glass. Asshole, do you know how to drink wine? You can't drink it like this. You need to savor it slowly. Bant was an uncouth man, but he actually said something like savoring wine. If Ken had never tasted wine like this before, he would probably think that his father had been replaced. How did Chun brew wine? I've never tasted such good wine before. It's mainly because of his grapes. When they ripened last time, he sent some to us. Unfortunately, you weren't home. Your mom and I finished 5 kilograms of grapes in 2 days. Don't tell me you guys eat grapes as your main food? Ken's eyes almost popped out. 5 kilograms of grapes in 2 days? Just then Ken's phone rang. Hello, it's Ken. Ken, the boss needs a car. Come over immediately. Chapter 859. Ken was now a chauffeur for a rich man. Today, he had sneaked back from his busy schedule. After snatching a bottle of wine from Bant, Ken happily drove to work. Hello, Mr. Rosario. Ken greeted as he watched his boss get into the car. To Beverly Hills. When Rosario got in the car, he also took a bottle of red wine. Suddenly, Rosario saw a bottle of wine on the front passenger seat. What wine is that? Mr. Rosario, I just went home. My father's friend gave it to me. Pfft. It doesn't even have a brand. Rosario's tone was somewhat mocking. Do you know Valandru Winery? Or Marag Winery? I don't know. Ken, you don't even know these famous wineries. Why are you drinking red wine like others? Rosario picked up the wine he'd brought. Do you know how much this wine costs? I don't. $20,000. 90 years from Valandru Winery. There are less than 1,000 bottles in the market every year. That's called red wine, understand? Ken chuckled. The first rule of being someone else's chauffeur was not to argue with his boss. He indeed didn't know much about wine, but he liked Chen Zhao's wine. Ken had always been grateful to Chen Zhao. Back then, Chen Zhao had saved him, dragged him out of the fire, and even helped him save his life. Moreover, their families had always been close. Their families often visited each other too. In Ken's eyes, Chen Zhao was much wealthier than his boss. As for his boss, Ken knew him well. Rosario was actually just a nouveau riche. He was in the transportation business. He had 10 trucks under him, and over 10 million in assets. However, after Rosario became rich, he started to learn from the upper class. He would attend rich people's parties, or drink red wine like others. After arriving at a villa in Beverly Hills, Ken waited at the door. Judging from his posture, Rosario was probably going to a party. Rosario entered the villa. There were already many people inside. Mr. Mayor. Mays was the owner of this villa, and also the organizer of this party. He was also someone Rosario wanted to curry favor with. Mays was the owner of a local appliance manufacturer in Los Angeles. If Rosario could get Mayor's order, then his company's business would increase by at least 30%. Hi Rosario, you're here. Come in and have a seat. Mays treated Rosario coldly. He patted Rosario on the shoulder and turned around to leave. Mays had always looked down on Rosario. He had never thought of Rosario as belonging to his own class, because Rosario used to be a truck driver. Rosario stopped Mays. Mr. Mays, I bought this for you. It's a 90-year-old wine from the Vallon Rue Chateau. It's very hard to find in the market. Mays picked up the wine Rosario had given him and had a look. He couldn't help but sneer. Rosario, do you know red wine? I occasionally study it. Then do you know that the red wine made from the Vallon Rue Chateau uses White Doux Cabernet Sauvignon? Because the White Doux Cabernet Sauvignon grows on the red soil in the suburbs of Paris. The soil there has a higher alkaline amino group, so the White Doux Cabernet Sauvignon absorbs it. This is also the reason why the red wine, made from White Doux Cabernet Sauvignon wine, has a special taste. However, if it's fermented for too long, it'll ruin the taste. That's why the best vintage is 96. Although the price is 20% higher by 1 year, the amino acid content also increases year by year, causing the taste to be more astringent. A 90-year-old wine can't be drunk anymore. If you want me to keep it, I have plenty of wine in my cellar. If you want me to drink it, I'm afraid you'll make me vomit on the spot. May's words made Rosario's face turn red. He couldn't say a word. Rosario didn't know anything about red wine. He only remembered a few expensive wine brands. In his opinion, the older the red wine, the more expensive it was, the better it would taste. Although he couldn't taste it himself. Even at home, he preferred vodka, brandy, or whiskey to red wine. If it weren't for social engagements, he wouldn't even spend $20,000 on a bottle of wine. Forget it, you meant well. Come with me. I'll show you the true charm of wine. Mayer said casually, as if those harsh words weren't from him. Come with me. I'll show you the true charm of wine. Although Mays looked down on Rosario, he liked to feel superior to people like him. Mays led Rosario into the hall. At this time, there were already many people in the hall. Mays clapped his hands lightly, signaling for the guests to quiet down. My friends, I invited you all here today to share a bottle of wine that I obtained with you. Mays glanced at Rosario out of the corner of his eye, and Rosario instantly blushed. Mays casually placed the bottle of wine that Rosario had given him aside, and asked the servant to bring him a bottle of wine. Why is there no logo? Which winery is this wine from? Is this a bar like Sacramento's Mara Supermarket? Mays glanced at the guests. He didn't expect that someone among his friends would recognize the wine. Tora, does the supermarket sell this wine? Only in Sacramento's Mara Supermarket, and it's limited. Only 40 bottles are sold every month, and each bottle costs $60,000. There's no logo, only the number at the bottom. Will people buy it? Someone asked. Because the wine's made by the same person as Daydream. Do you think no one will buy it? Everyone sucked in a breath of cold air. Daydream? There was no one in America who didn't know about Daydream. It was a wine that created a miracle in the tourism industry of an entire city. a wine that was mythical. And now, they could drink the wine made by the same winemaker. No one thought that the $60,000 wasn't worth it. Instead, everyone was looking forward to it. Do you know how much money I spent to buy this bottle of wine? Maze looked at the crowd. Wasn't it $60,000? Rosario asked. Everyone rolled their eyes. Since Maze said so, it must be more than $60,000. Moreover, one could imagine how crazy the demand would be after the first batch of nameless red wine was put on the shelves. Chapter 860. Rich people had a simple way of thinking. The rarer something was, the better it was. At that moment, everyone in the living room had the urge to grab a bottle of nameless red wine. It didn't matter if they knew wine or not. The wine might not be famous. However, the name of its creator was simply too famous. He was recognized as the world's best brewer. Because this winemaker had brewed the most perfect wine, Daydream. $1 billion wine. Daydream hadn't been sold. But no one could recognize the value of Daydream. The tourists that Daydream brought to Sacramento, and the customers to Mara Supermarket, were proof of the value of this bottle of wine. It was held every year at the Sacramento Stadium, and last time it was the first one. It attracted 3 million tourists from all over the world. What did that mean? Sacramento had a population of less than 500,000, but it received 3 million tourists. According to statistics, Sacramento's tourism revenue increased by at least $3 billion a year because of this wine. In the past, Sacramento's tourism revenue was in the millions. It wasn't even $10 million. But now 200,000 to 300,000 people from all over the world went to Sacramento every day. That was why Daydream had been deified. The city of Sacramento also bought a huge insurance policy for Daydream. Although there was only one bottle of Daydream, the brewer of Daydream had brewed a new wine. No matter how it tasted, the name alone was worth $60,000. The moment Maze opened the cork, the aroma of the wine filled the air. Everyone was immersed in the aroma and couldn't pull themselves out. Everyone's body and mind were satisfied in that instant. It was as if the aroma alone was enough to make them savor it. Maze regretted it the moment he opened the bottle. This wine shouldn't be shared. He should have brought it for a drink in his spare time. But since he had invited them, he couldn't keep it. Everyone poured a glass of wine. Rosario didn't know that much. He only knew that it tasted good. The taste of this bottle of red wine was completely different from the wine he used to drink when he was a cultured person. It had the taste of wine, but it didn't have the stimulation of alcohol. Rosario actually felt the fragrance of spring flowers blooming in a glass of wine. Everyone's eyes were filled with splendor. Rosario thought to himself, as expected of a $200,000 bottle of wine. The taste of this wine was really memorable. This was a smell that could make people fall in love. Everyone stared at Maze, hoping that he would share the rest of the wine. However, it was clear that Mayer had no such intentions. Previously he had invited them here to show off. But now he regretted it. After Rosario left May's villa, he returned to his car. He was still savoring the taste of that glass of wine. "Mr. Rosario, where are we going now?" "Send me home," Rosario said in disappointment as he glanced at Mayer's villa. Maybe he should try his luck at Marla in Sacramento. Just then, Rosario saw the bottle of wine on the passenger seat again. Rosario saw the number 085 printed on the bottom of the wine. Rosario said, "Let me have a look at this bottle." He picked up the wine and looked at it carefully. "This is a gift from your father's friend?" "Yes." "Have you drunk it before?" "Yes." "I don't usually like wine, but I like this wine. It's delicious." "Can I open it?" Here." Ken was a little reluctant. After all, he wanted to enjoy it alone. However, Rosario was his boss, so he couldn't refuse. Rosario looked at the seal on the cork. It was exactly the same as the one on Maze's bottle. "Your father's friend is rich, right?" Yes he is." Was it really a nameless wine? Rosario thought to himself. $200,000, sell it to me, Rosario said. Boss, what did you say?" $200,000, sell it to me." Ken suddenly slammed on the brakes. The car stopped, and he turned to look at Rosario. "Boss, are you sure you know what you're talking about?" You don't know the price of this wine, right? I just remembered. It's called the Nameless Wine. I won't take advantage of you. It's originally sold at Mara Supermarket in Sacramento for $60,000, but it's limited to 40 bottles a month. It's hard to get, so I'll pay you $200,000. Are you selling it? Of course he would sell it. Only an idiot wouldn't sell it. Boss, you're not messing with me, are you? Ken was excited, but he was also worried. Was the boss trying to trick him? Did his boss really know about wine? I want to open it and check it first. If it's not the wine I want, I'll pay you $1,000. If it's the wine I want, $200,000. Rosario liked to show off, but perhaps because he used to drive a truck, he was more honest. He didn't plan to trick Ken. Plus, if Ken found out later, it would be troublesome. Rosario was not short of money, so he offered a price that he thought was fair. Okay. Rosario took out a bottle opener out of nowhere and opened the cork in the car. Instantly, the aroma filled the entire car. Rosario immediately put the cork back in. That's right. It really was the Nameless Wine. He didn't expect to find a treasure. It really was the Nameless Wine. Here's the check for $200,000. Ken was dumbfounded. He didn't expect Rosario to be so direct. Boss, where did this wine come from? The world's best winemaker. Ken was confused. The world's best winemaker? Wasn't Chin a doctor? How did he become a winemaker? Do you know Daydream? Yeah, it's Sacramento's specialty. This wine is made by the same person as Daydream. Boss, you're not lying to me. Why would I lie to you? You don't even know wine, Rosario said in disdain. Ken's mind was in a mess. After sending Rosario home, he called his father. Dad, I just sold the wine I took from home. You *Shoal, did you do drugs? Or do you need money? Tell me if you need money. Why did you sell the wine? I don't even have enough to drink and you're selling it? You *Shoal. Dad, do you know how much I sold it for? Chapter 861. Dad, I sold it for $200,000. Don't talk nonsense. I'm serious. I really sold it for $200,000. Vant's mouth was wide open, his face filled with shock. Dad, use your phone to search Mara Supermarket for nameless red wine. Vant started searching for related information. As expected, a lot of information and news popped up. 5 days ago, Mara Supermarket had put 40 bottles of wine on the shelves. They were specially approved by the Sacramento city government. They were sold out as soon as they went on sale. There was still a small amount circulating on the black market. The highest price was already close to $300,000. Ken, this nameless wine is Chen's gift to us? That's right. Vant's mind was in a mess. Mara Supermarket sold a bottle for $60,000. The average price on the black market was above $200,000. The highest was close to $300,000. Chen Zhao had given him 5 bottles, including the one he'd already drunk, and the one Ken had taken away. There were only 2 left. Vant didn't know what to say anymore. He didn't expect Chen Zhao to give him something so expensive as a gift either. Of course, he was also conflicted. Should he sell it or drink it? If he sold someone else's gift, it would be very rude. But if he drank it, it would be too extravagant. Anyway, Vant couldn't drink it. Vant called Chen Zhao. Hey Chen, did you make the wine in Mara Supermarket? Yeah, you know about it? Ken just took a bottle, but his boss bought it for $200,000. Vant smiled bitterly. Now that I know about it, I really don't know what to do. Since it's a gift to you, you have the right to choose, Chen Zhao said. But I suggest you don't sell it so quickly. As long as you keep it well, the longer it stays, the better it tastes. You can sell it when you need money in the future. Okay, I understand. Vant was very grateful. But tell Ken not to leak this news. Okay, I know. I'll tell Ken. Chen, do you think we should expand the vineyard? Don't expand. We're selling high-quality wine. The more we produce, the lower the price. The profit won't be as good as now, Chen Zhao said. Look at those wineries. They're all huge, but they only brew a limited amount each year. Fei Lai was overjoyed these few days. After all, it was her first time experiencing the joy of making money. The 40 bottles of red wine, were sold out on the same day they were put on the shelves. $2,400,000. And the city of Sacramento gave him a tax break. This was also the result of Winnip's negotiation. Now Winnip's attitude towards the Sacramento government was in a strong phase. Now, Sacramento had completely transformed into a tourist city, and all of this was brought about by Daydreams. As long as Daydream was in Winnip's hands, Sacramento would be in Winnip's hands. This wasn't just for show. The value of Daydream was no longer limited to its own value. The indirect economy of Daydreams had already exceeded its own value. Just as Chen Zhao and Fei Lai were lying on the chair, Zhilin stood up unsteadily. Chen Zhao and Fei Lai were both stunned. Zhilin can stand up now. But soon, little Zhilin's short legs bent, and she lay on the ground again. She could only stand up for a short while, but Chen Zhao and Fei Lai were both very happy. Chen, why is the older the red wine the better? Chen Zhao thought about it. Actually, that's a mistake. It's not that the older the better. In fact, the best storage time for most red wine is 3 to 8 months. Only a few wines need a longer fermentation period because of the grapes chosen. For example, our little Zhilin needs around 20 years to grow up, but Simba and Nana only need a few years to grow up. Some wineries use vines that have been cultivated for generations, or even dozens of generations. Their vines are the winery's most precious assets. Usually they're not allowed to leave. You can think of Zhilin's growth period from the fermentation of red wine. What else can you think of? There are too many things to compare, Chen Zhao said casually. For example, Chen Zhao's heart jumped. He suddenly thought of a problem. Old Turtle had once said that Chen Zhao's magic power was at the bottleneck of ultimate transformation. Chen Zhao had always had a vague idea about this, but now, he suddenly thought of the fermentation process of wine. Was ultimate transformation similar to the fermentation of wine? If this was true, then he should consider how to ferment magic power. The process of ultimate transformation was the fermentation of magic power. Chun, what are you thinking about? I'm thinking about what to eat tonight. Fei Lai rolled her eyes. Ever since the underlings came to the house, they hadn't worried about this. Chen Zhao had been thinking about how to ultimate transformation his magic power. He would ask Old Turtle later. At night, Chen Zhao entered the river map. Every time he entered the river map, Old Turtle was playing games. And he was always playing games with his avatar. Old Turtle, isn't the ultimate transformation similar to the fermentation of wine? Ah, you actually figured it out. It's such a simple question. Why did you have to hide it before and make me figure it out myself? Chen Zhao looked at Old Turtle indignant. Don't novels say you have to figure it out yourself? Is there no other reason? No. Then how do I ferment the magic power in my body? Extreme environment, Old Turtle said. Extreme how? It's either extreme heat or extreme cold. But in most cases, if you're in these two extreme environments, you'll either be burned to death or frozen to death. The extreme you're talking about, don't tell me you're burning or throwing it into an ice house. Look at Sun Wukong in Journey to the West. He mastered the fiery eyes in Taishang Laozi's alchemy furnace. You're getting more and more ridiculous. That's a myth and also a novel. You can also choose an environment one level lower. For example, go to the hottest or coldest place in the world and stay there for 3 to 5 years. Then the fermentation process will be complete. Chen Zhao's heart jumped. Wait, I can create an extremely hot or extremely cold environment right here in the river map. Since wine could be fermented in the river map, Old Turtle could cultivate here for thousands of years. Chen Zhao should be able to do the same, right? Most importantly, you're thinking about extreme heat or extreme cold. Is there a difference? Chapter 862. What's the exact difference? Chen Zhao asked. If you use extreme heat as your state, you'll be training your body with fire. You'll be invulnerable. Your body will be like iron and your heart will be like the sun, Old Turtle said. If you use extreme cold as your state, your heart will be like a blade, and your mind will be like a sword. No inner demons will be born. Your energy will be like a rainbow, and your power will be like frost. To be more direct, I don't understand. Extreme heat is training your body. Extreme cold is training your heart. Do you think body training is awesome? Chen Zhao said. At least you can feel the changes in your body with body training. But who knows if there will be any changes with heart training. Extreme cold training can prevent inner demons from growing, Old Turtle said. In the long run, extreme cold is more advantageous. That means extreme cold is better. You can't say that. If you don't have inner demons, you can't improve your state of mind. Fuck, is extreme heat better or extreme cold better? Either is fine. Can I train in both ice and fire? Chen Zhao asked. Taoism walks on the balance of yin and yang, but in most cases, no one can succeed. Okay, since others can't, I won't go either. Old Turtle looked at Chen Zhao speechlessly. When he heard the first half, he thought Chen Zhao would say that he wanted someone else to follow Buyong. In the end, Chen Zhao admitted defeat. Actually, it's not completely impossible. How? First is the time limit. 1,000 years ago in the human world, the river diagram was collected by a Taoist. I watched him cultivate step by step, but when he reached ultimate, he was already 100 years old. His spiritual power was the best in the world, but his body was almost withered. He couldn't handle the ice and fire dual training at all. He also couldn't achieve yin and yang balance before his death. Old Turtle looked at Chen Zhao. You're different. You're young and your body is stronger than others. You also have the river diagram. Time isn't a limit for you, so you have a better chance of surviving the yin and yang baptism. Are there risks? Chen Zhao asked. There are risks, but the benefits definitely outweigh the risks. Chen Zhao thought about it. How long? Depends on what package you want. Chen Zhao rolled his eyes. What combo do you offer? I'll create an extremely hot or extremely cold environment for you, Old Turtle said. It'll take around 100 years. 100 years in the river diagram? Did that mean a month had passed in the outside world? No, if I disappear for a month, Feilai will go crazy. Then I'll use the heavenly fire and mystic ice to help you transform. How long will this take? Estimated 10 years. Can we stop halfway? Sure. Then use this, Chen Zhao said. How do I do it? I'll first create a barrier of heavenly fire and mysterious ice. Old Turtle's Feilai was countless times stronger than Chen Zhao's. The vicissitudes of life could only be in his thoughts. First, huge pillars of mystical ice fell from the sky. These pillars of mystical ice were of different sizes and lengths. They formed a semicircle, within a radius of several thousand zhang. Following that, the ground began to burn with raging flames, connecting with the 1,000-zhang-long profound ice barrier. Ice and fire formed a ring. Half of it was ice, and the other half was flames. If one looked down from above, it looked like a Taiji diagram. As soon as Chen Zhao approached the flames, he felt a wave of heat. Chen Zhao wanted to change directions. When he approached the ice, he felt a bone-piercing chill again. What do I do? If I go in, I'll be frozen into ice or barbecued. Use your spiritual power to protect your body first. Then go in from the direction of the mystic ice. After half a circle, you'll enter the other half of the heavenly fire. Run as fast as you can. Chen Zhao glanced at Old Turtle. Are you sure this will work? This is just the outermost layer of cold and heat. The closer you get to the core of the circle, the stronger the cold and heat. If you can't even handle this bit of temperature difference, you should change to a normal extremely hot and cold environment. Chen Zhao glanced at the entrance, and then at Old Turtle. So I'll be done after running one circle? In the next 10 years, you have to keep running. When you completely transform your spiritual power, you'll be considered to have completed ultimate transformation. Chen Zhao activated all the spiritual power in his body and started covering his skin. When he approached the mystic ice field again, it wasn't as unbearable as before. Suddenly, Old Turtle pushed Chen Zhao from behind. Chen Zhao didn't have time to prepare at all. He fell into the mystic ice field. Just then, the entrance to the mystic ice field closed. Run if you don't want to freeze to death. When he entered, the bone-piercing chill attacked him again. Old Turtle, fuck you. Chen Zhao started running. Chen Zhao ran as fast as he could. He didn't know how fast he could run. He had to leave the mystic ice field as soon as possible. Chen Zhao only took a minute and a half to cover the distance of 3 kilometers. Just then, A wave of heat surged from the place where the mystic ice field connected. Chen Zhao didn't have time to think. He dove into the heavenly fire field. For a moment, Chen Zhao felt warm from the heavenly fire field. The coldness was gone. But the next moment, he couldn't take the scorching heat anymore. The human body reacted more to heat than cold. Chen Zhao felt like his hair was about to ignite. Chen Zhao sped up and passed through the burning heavenly fire field. Another wave of coldness attacked him. Where's the exit? Where's the exit that was supposed to connect here? Old turtle, you old asterisk shoal, you blocked the exit. You want to slack off after just one round? Old turtle's voice came from outside. Chen Zhao ran while yelling. He charged into the mystic ice field again and ran another round. He passed through the heavenly fire field and then the mystic ice field. The cycle repeated again and again. Chen Zhao could endure it physically, but he couldn't keep up with the consumption of spiritual power. Without the protection of spiritual power, Chen Zhao would have to face the mystic ice and heavenly fire directly. Finally, on the 8th round, Chen Zhao's spiritual power was completely used up. He hadn't finished the 8th round yet. Chen Zhao could only brace himself and sprint forward. He finally saw the exit. Chen Zhao rushed out of the exit and collapsed on the ground. His body was covered in frostbite and burns. Why do I have to torture myself? Chen Zhao wanted to cry but had no tears. It's okay. You'll get used to it slowly. Rest for a day and then continue. Old turtle, why do I feel like you're so passionate about me? Because I'm bored. Chen Zhao suspected that old turtle had thought of this method just to torture him. Chen Zhao's recovery speed was quite good. He recovered the next day. Chapter 863. Chen Zhao felt that he hadn't improved in other aspects during the month in the river map. He sped up to pass through the mystic ice and skyfire realms as quickly as possible. Chen Zhao sped up again and again. The mystic ice and skyfire realms combined to form a 6-kilometer ring. Chen Zhao had originally needed around 3 minutes to finish, but now it was 2.5 minutes. At this speed, he would be going around 140 kilometers per hour. At the same time, Chen Zhao's control of his spiritual power was better. He knew how to use spiritual power to the maximum. He didn't need to use the most spiritual power at the start. In the end, he ran out of spiritual power after a few laps. Now he could run 20 laps in one go. He didn't know how many laps he'd run in the past month. Chen Zhao, try not using spiritual power to protect your body. How many laps can you last? Do you want to freeze me into a popsicle? Or roast me? If the mystic ice and skyfire realms don't enter your body, you'll never improve. Just bear with it. Bear with it. Why don't you come with me? I don't need ultimate transformation. Why should I suffer with you? Chen Zhao stood before the mystic ice and skyfire realms again. He didn't use spiritual power to protect his body. Chen Zhao took a deep breath and dove in. Spiritual power protection and no spiritual power protection were two completely different concepts. Chen Zhao felt like the coldness was going to penetrate his body. No, his body was going to freeze. All his blood seemed to stop flowing. Chen Zhao felt his body getting slower and slower. No, he had to speed up. The moment Chen Zhao broke through the mystic ice realm, heat waves surged into his body. Chen Zhao suddenly sped up. The cold air in his body became his protection now. Chen Zhao's heart jumped. Was this the trick? First, he absorbed the cold air, and then used it to defend against the heat waves of Skyfire Realm. But after running halfway, the cold air was used up. Next, the hot air surged into Chen Zhao's body even faster. This time Chen Zhao didn't stop it. Instead, he let it flow through his body. The moment he passed through Skyfire Realm, the hot air started to defend against the coldness of the Mystic Ice Realm. Cold and heat restrained each other, while heat and cold continued to affect Chen Zhao's body. Chen Zhao sped up. He felt like he was getting used to it. The effect of the golden key was showing. Chen Zhao could feel that his body was quickly adapting to the cold and hot environment. At that moment, he could feel the changes in his body even more clearly. The golden key did not improve one's body's ability, but it allowed the body to constantly evolve. Simply put, the golden key's function was to increase his adaptability. In different environments, Chen Zhao could adapt faster. Originally, it would take thousands or even tens of thousands of years for a species to adapt to a new environment. However, the golden key had shortened the evolution process. Not only did his body change, but he also felt that his magic was changing. Adaptation was not immunity, so the damage was still there. However, Chen Zhao's recovery speed had also increased greatly. Chen Zhao also sped up. Chen Zhao estimated that he could reach 200 kilometers per hour. Chen Zhao, you can come out now. Chen Zhao ran out of the Mystic Ice territory and Skyfire territory. Old Turtle stared at Chen Zhao. He realized that Chen Zhao had changed a lot. With his eyesight, he could obviously see Chen Zhao's change. This was strange. Chen Zhao's ultimate transformation hadn't been completed yet, but he had changed so much. You can shrink the Mystic Ice territory and Skyfire territory now. This size is not very effective for you anymore. Is it better to shrink them? The closer you are to the center, the greater the temperature difference, Old Turtle said. Under Old Turtle's control, the area of Skyfire territory and Mystic Ice territory shrank greatly. When Chen Zhao went in again, he felt like he had returned to the beginning. But now Chen Zhao was confident. Chen Zhao stayed in the river map for a long time. He didn't know how long he had been inside. However, when he came out, he realized that only 5 hours had passed outside. Chen Zhao was not used to the warmth outside now. Just then, Fei Lai realized that Chen Zhao had returned. She thought that Chen Zhao had gone out, but he didn't seem to have driven out. Chen, you seem to have changed a bit. Chen Zhao touched his face. Change? How? I don't know. I just feel weird. Am I more handsome? Fei Lai patted Chen Zhao's chest. Where did you go just now? I went to exercise. Did you go to the wild? Yes. Oh, I have a student, Evely. You remember her, right? She has a competition next month in Montreal. She invited us to watch her competition. Do you want to go? Sure. Fei Lai nodded. Oh, Steven called just now. He told you to call him when you come back. Okay. Chen Zhao picked up the phone and called Steven. Hey Steven, did you call me just now? Chen, come here. I need to discuss something with you. Chen Zhao's heart jumped. Were Steven and Rasva planning to carry out that plan? Fei Lai, I'll go to Steven's place later. Okay. When Chen Zhao arrived at Steven's house, Rasva was there too. This time neither of them drank. Chen, do you remember what we told you last time? Are you really going to do this? Yes. Even if it gets exposed, we can just say that we're filming a movie. It won't affect me at all. How do we do it exactly? Chen Zhao asked. You'll be my personal bodyguard for 2 days, Steven said. That's your persona. And then you'll get addicted to filming short videos and post them on social media. Normally, you'll film me with your phone. That'll explain what happened later and why there are videos. Chen Zhao nodded. Steven and Rasva started discussing the details with him. I don't need to show my face, right? Yes, you don't. You can film me normally. For example, when I'm working or resting. You can film it and post it online. I opened a Facebook account for you, Rasva said. This is the password. Remember it. Chapter 864. In the past 2 days, Chen Zhao stayed beside Steven every day. He was really like Steven's bodyguard. Mr. Steven, do you have any plans for your next movie? Chen Zhao took out his phone to record. This was what he'd done the most in the past 2 days. Rather than a bodyguard, he was more like a reporter. I'm working now. Don't disturb me, if you don't want to be fired. Steven chased Chen Zhao out of the office mercilessly. Bored, Chen Zhao went to Yu Wenhui's office. Hello, Xiaoyu. Yu Wenhui didn't know what Chen Zhao and Steven were doing. The two were confused. Chen Zhao had somehow become Steven's bodyguard. She knew that Chen Zhao was very rich, so he couldn't be Steven's bodyguard. Moreover, their relationship didn't seem like that of a bodyguard. Every time he came to the studio with Steven, Chen Zhao would start harassing people. I'm not familiar with you. Okay, Ms. Yu. As Mr. Steven's assistant, do you have anything to say? Sorry, I'm Mr. Steven's assistant. A lot of his work is confidential and can't be leaked. Also, close the door for me when you go out. Thank you. Chen Zhao shrugged. I'm glad you cooperated. See you next time. In the morning, Chen Zhao harassed most of the women in the office. At noon, Chen Zhao and Stephen went out for lunch. Stephen, other than me, you have someone else arranged for you, right? Chen Zhao asked. Yes, my bodyguard is still following us secretly. No wonder. Hey, Stephen seems to have fewer bodyguards these days. He only has one bodyguard with him. It's not a trap, right? Are you stupid? How rich is he? Why would he use himself as a trap to lure kidnappers? Yeah, and he doesn't even know we're here. Maybe he thinks he's safe, so he's starting to be careless. It's much faster than we expected. Perfect. We can speed up our plan. When do we do it? Tomorrow. When do we do it? Chen Zhao asked. Tomorrow, Stephen said. What's the specifics? First, we'll pick up Rasfa. Then, we'll have an argument in the car. You'll have to secretly record our argument. Then, Rasfa got out of the car in anger, Stephen said. I chased him out of the car and continued arguing with him. Just then, the robbers appeared and dragged both of us into the car. You realized that something was wrong, so you started a car chase. Stephen paused and continued. At this time, we will arrange for an accident. Are you sure it's okay? Sure, as long as you don't hit me with a train. Then you got hurt, blamed yourself, and started planning to rescue me and Rasfa. But we can't film all of this. If we film all of this, it will seem too deliberate. First of all, you can use the car recorder to record the kidnapping and car chase. Secondly, you can record the one-man show in the car with the phone you threw aside, Stephen said. Oh right, how many people have followed your Facebook account these few days? Less than 100, Chen Zhao said. So little. With my name as a gimmick, no one will pay attention to it? Of course. Who would watch an unfamiliar video if they haven't done any promotions? Whatever, I'll do it later. Then how do we set up the rescue process? Chen Zhao asked. First, buy a dog. No, you have so many pets at home. Borrow one and put it in the video. Think of it as me temporarily adopting it. Then I developed feelings for it. With this pet, we finally found the kidnapper's lair. Chen Zhao looked at Stephen speechlessly. He was really a drama queen. Who do you think is suitable in my family? If it's a normal pet, it's too boring. How about I borrow Snow White? But we'll start tomorrow. If we get a cougar today and develop feelings for it, won't that be too sudden? How about this? I'll ask my ex-wife to participate too. Snow White is my pet before we divorced. She's going on a long trip, so I'll take care of it. Chen Zhao went home and picked up Snow White. Stephen also found Halifa Olis. Stephen had clearly explained the situation to his ex-wife. When Halifa Olis saw Chen Zhao bring Snow White, she was shocked. Stephen had said that Snow White was a cute pet. In the end, Snow White was even bigger than her. Although Snow White was pretty, it was also scary. Are you sure it won't bite me? Don't worry. Snow White is very obedient. All right then. Halifa carefully reached out and rubbed White Snow's head. Snow White closed its eyes and moaned in pleasure. Ha! Halifa soon realized that Snow White was not fierce. It was also very docile. I feel like it should be my pet. Mr. Chen, how about selling it to me? Halifa quickly fell in love with Snow White. Halifa, save it. If Chen was willing to sell it, he would have sold it to me long ago. It wouldn't be your turn. Halifa Olis glared at Stephen, and Stephen began to make arrangements again. Chen, you can go back to the car and film. The process was not complicated. Chen Zhao just played the part of an unprofessional bodyguard and peeped into his employer Stephen's privacy. Then, because of his mistake, Stephen was in danger. In the end, Chen Zhao realized something and saved Stephen and Rasfa from the kidnappers. Hi Halifa, what's up? Stephen acted as if he did not know anything and started acting. Halifa Olis and Snow White walked to Stephen's side. Stephen, I'm going overseas for a while. Help me take care of Snow White. Is this Snow White? It's so big. Stephen went up and hugged Snow White happily. Snow White, do you remember Daddy? White Snow came up and kissed Stephen. Stephen rubbed White Snow's head excitedly. Don't let Snow White go hungry. With that, Halifa turned and left. In the car, Chen Zhao also finished filming. After Stephen got in with Snow White, he said, Chen, upload this video online. Keep this mini earpiece. We can talk to each other at any time. Make sure nothing goes wrong with our plan. Chapter 865. Actually, Chen Zhao's mission was simple. His job was to act as a cameraman. At least, that was what he'd been doing before the accident. He was a bodyguard who'd neglected his duties. Then he'd explode after the accident and turn the tide. But Chen Zhao was still nervous. After all, he'd never done something like this. He was an amateur actor who could make 20 NGs in one scene. Anyone would be nervous about doing something that could pass off as genuine. But since he'd already agreed, Chen Zhao had no reason to back out. Chen, when you're ready, you can drive in and pick me up. Then go get Rasfa. Chen Zhao drove into Steven's house. Steven exchanged a look with Chen Zhao and got in the car with Snow White. Then he went to Rasfa's house and picked him up. As Chen Zhao drove, he took out his phone and started recording Steven and Rasfa's argument. Chen Zhao drove to a secluded road. Why are these two old men fighting? Chen Zhao muttered to himself. Last time I saw them, they were still wearing the same pants. Just then Rasfa yelled, I'm breaking up with you. Let me out of the car. I don't want to talk to an idiot like you anymore. Chen Zhao stopped the car. Rasfa opened the door and left. At this time, Steven also followed, and the two began to pretend to quarrel under the car. Chen Zhao's expression was bored. He waited for the next scene to start. As expected, a business car stopped just like they'd planned. A few masked men pulled Rasfa and Steven into the car. At the same time, they shot at Chen Zhao, who was sitting in the car. Bang! The bullet hit Chen Zhao's body, and then landed on his hand. Chen Zhao froze. Fuck, if it hit someone else, they'd be dead. Are they so realistic? Seeing the robber's car leave, Chen Zhao immediately sped up and chased after them. It wasn't the time to argue. He had to finish the act first. Meanwhile, in the business car, Pablo, that bodyguard, didn't die. He's following us again. Pablo stuck his head out of the window and looked back. He saw Chen Zhao chasing after them in the car. Pablo took out his submachine gun and aimed at Chen Zhao's car for a few seconds. Da-da-da. However, Pablo realized that the bodyguards chasing after them didn't seem to be avoiding them at all. Steven and Rasfa were tied up. All right, it's all an act. Let us go, Steven said. Pa! A robber hit Steven's head with the butt of his gun. Behave yourself. What are you doing? Steven's head was bleeding. Steven, what's going on? Rasfa was dumbfounded too. This was just an act. Was there a need to be so serious? What are you doing? Of course, it's kidnapping. The robber said coldly. Be honest, don't play tricks on me. Pablo, who is this old man? If it's useless, just kill him. Him? He's the chairman of PLM, a rich man. I didn't expect to catch two at once, Pablo said. Let's get rid of that bodyguard first. Steven and Rasfa were both dumbfounded. Was this a real act, and the real robbers were lured here? Pablo took out a grenade and threw it behind him. Bang! The grenade exploded on the hood of Chen Zhao's car. Steven and Rasfa instantly broke out in a cold sweat. Chen Zhao was dead? They didn't expect things to turn out like this. Chen Zhao was dumbfounded too. The car was completely destroyed. Steven, Rasfa, what are you doing? The people you hired are all so heavy-handed? They almost killed me in white snow. Chen Zhao said into his earpiece. Steven and Rasfa were both wearing earpieces. Hearing Chen Zhao's voice, they both heaved a sigh of relief. However, they couldn't speak now. They were all anxious. Chen Zhao and White Snow got out of the car. Just then another car came over. It was also a business car. A few people got out, all fully armed. Mr. Chen, where's Mr. Steven? Mr. Rasfa? Did they cancel the plan? Seeing them get out of the car, Chen Zhao was stunned. Didn't you already take action? What action? We just arrived, the leader said. Look, the timing is just right. But, just now a group of people dragged the two of them into the car. Wasn't it you? Chen Zhao was dumbfounded. No, it's not us. We're here on time. Fuck, no wonder they were so ruthless. They're really robbers. Chen Zhao finally realized. You mean Mr. Steven and Mr. Rasfa really met robbers? The others were all dumbfounded too. Chen Zhao's expression darkened. He climbed onto the ruined car and took out the USB drive with the car's recording device. Play the content. Chen Zhao felt a headache coming on. He'd really screwed up this time. If he'd known that they were robbers, he would have taken them down directly. They're not our people. Chen Zhao's expression grew even more serious. White Snow, remember the smell of those two old guys, right? White Snow nodded. Find them, Chen Zhao said. Stephen and Rasfa were dragged to an abandoned building in the wilderness. You can have as much money as you want, as long as you don't hurt us, Stephen shouted. Shut up and go in. The two were brought to the top floor. The building was leaky and filled with trash. The two were locked in a dirty room. We're dead this time. I didn't expect to meet real robbers. Do you think Chen Zhao can find us? I don't know. I just hope that he can react quickly. I'm afraid that he'll be kept in the dark and think that this is our plan. Just then the door opened. A robber walked in and dragged Rasfa out. Come out. What are you doing? Rasfa struggled, but he was quickly punched to the ground. Just then, one of the robbers took out a camera and started filming Rasfa. Read this script. The robber threw a script in front of Rasfa. Hurry up. Don't waste time. Helpless, Rasfa could only read from the script. I'm Rasfa, the chairman of PLM Film Company. I've been kidnapped. I need my family to fork out $100 million to pay for my ransom. I hope to see the money before midnight tonight. Okay, Stephen, that old thing come out. Chapter 866. Breaking news. Our station has received a video sent by an anonymous person. At that moment the scene changed. An old man was beaten to the ground, and he said something. Then a second old man appeared on the screen. No way. Mr. Stephen was kidnapped? Oh my God, how did this happen? In less than half an hour, the news had swept across America and even the world. Everyone knew the news. Stephen's influence was too great. No one was unfamiliar with him. Anyone who knew Hollywood would know Stephen. Stephen was the benchmark of Hollywood movies. So when the news of his kidnapping spread, it spread as fast as possible. Chun, did you see the news? My dad was kidnapped. Zola called Chen Zhao immediately. Didn't they say it was an act? It's an act. Chen Zhao's expression was extremely dark. He felt that he had to take responsibility for this accident. Are you sure? It's fake. Don't worry. But I can't get through to my dad. It's for the plot. Are you sure? Is it fake? Why does it look so real? There's blood on my dad's head. It's all props, Chen Zhao said, forcing himself to say. Scared me. I thought my dad was really kidnapped. As soon as Zola hung up, Halifa Olis called. Mr. Chen, I just saw the news. Is this part of your plan? Yes, it's all arranged. You're not lying? It's not like you don't know our plan. Okay. Finally, it was over. Chen Zhao heaved a long sigh of relief. He was very calm now. He had no other thoughts other than killing the kidnappers. Fortunately, White Snow had a very sharp sense of smell. When the sky turned dark, Chen Zhao finally found an abandoned building far away in the countryside. This building had probably been abandoned for 20 to 30 years. It was more than 10 stories tall and had an old-fashioned design. Chen Zhao climbed up the outer wall of the building under the cover of the night. Right now, Rasfa and Stephen were still in the kidnappers' hands. Chen Zhao didn't want to alert them. If the kidnappers directly took the two of them as hostages, then it would be very troublesome. So he had to save them first. Killing the kidnappers was secondary. Pa. What's that sound? At this moment, more than 10 kidnappers were gathered on the top floor. They could vaguely hear voices coming from outside. It's probably the wind. It doesn't sound like the wind. One of the kidnappers poked his head out. At this time, the sky was too dark to see anything outside. A building with more than 10 floors was neither big nor small. By now, Chen Zhao had already infiltrated the building. Although the entire building was in darkness, Chen Zhao's vision was like that of a beast. Therefore, it was more beneficial for Chen Zhao. Suddenly, Chen Zhao tripped over something. Then, the walls on both sides suddenly exploded. The flames engulfed Chen Zhao instantly. Someone triggered the trap. There's an intrusion. All the kidnappers became nervous in an instant. You two go take a look. The two kidnappers ran to the place of the explosion to check, but there was nothing there. There was a hole in the wall. There's nothing here? Then who triggered the trap? It's probably a rat, one of the kidnappers said. If it's a human, there'll definitely be blood here. The two kidnappers returned to the room where their friends were gathered. It's a rat who triggered the trap. Rat. We don't see anyone. No, it can't be a rat. A rat can't trigger the detonator. It can only be a human or a large animal. There aren't any large animals nearby, Pablo said with a serious expression. Everyone stay alert. Pull those two old guys out. Rasfa and Steven, who had been exhausted, had just fallen asleep when they were suddenly pulled out by the kidnappers. The kidnappers pointed guns at their heads. What are you doing? We'll pay you. Don't do anything stupid. Shut up, Pablo yelled. Who's there? Come out or I'll kill you. Don't do anything stupid. I'm coming out. Chen Zhao walked out. Shoot. Clatter, clatter, clatter. Ah! Chen Zhao screamed and fell to the ground. When Rasfa and Steven saw Chen Zhao, they still had some hope. But they didn't expect the kidnappers to be so decisive and shoot directly. Both of them were filled with sorrow. Chen Zhao was their friend. If they hadn't come up with this crazy plan, Chen Zhao wouldn't have been implicated and died in front of them. Chen Zhao wouldn't have been implicated and died in front of them. Lock them back in the room. Also everyone check around and see if there's anyone else. Only 2 people were left outside the room where Steven and Rasfa were locked up. The others scattered to the other corners of the building. The one on the ground was only Chen Zhao's clone. Chen Zhao's real body was climbing up the ventilation duct. While Steven and Rasfa were mourning in the dark room, a figure suddenly descended from the sky. Steven and Rasfa were about to scream, but Chen Zhao covered their mouths. Shoo! Chen Zhao gestured for them to keep quiet. The 2 of them nodded in understanding. Chen, how come you're not dead? Just now. Do you know there's something called bulletproof vests in this world? How do we escape now? Steven asked in a low voice. Don't you think it's a good chance? What chance? A chance to show off, Chen Zhao said. First, I'll kill them all. Then you guys call the actors you arranged beforehand, and we'll have a big fight here. They all have weapons. How do we kill them all? Are you going to do it or not? Chen Zhao said. If not, I'll just kill them and send you home. But are you confident? Just then, intense gunshots came from outside. You're not the only one? Steven asked in surprise. There's another helper, Chen Zhao said. It was actually Chen Zhao's other clone. It was currently killing the kidnappers. I'll kill the 2 at the door first. Chen Zhao opened the door casually. Seeing the door open, the 2 kidnappers immediately charged in. Chen Zhao crushed the necks of the 2 kidnappers. They collapsed before Steven and Rasfa. Both of them jumped in fright. Chapter 867. Steven and Rasfa picked up the guns of the 2 kidnappers. Then, Chen Zhao dragged the corpse of one of the kidnappers and smashed it onto the camera. Is it open? No. Then let's do it again. After Chen Zhao's antics, Steven and Rasfa forgot about their nervousness. After you throw the corpse on the ground, press it down with your hand. As long as the camera is connected, no one will be able to tell, Steven said. He was the most professional when it came to camera language. Don't leave fingerprints, Rasfa reminded. Okay, 3, 2, 1. Start. Chen Zhao threw the corpse on the ground and used a tree branch to switch on the camera. The camera had already been positioned in the right direction and lens. Chen Zhao stood behind the camera and made an okay gesture to Steven and Rasfa. Rasfa, I didn't expect you to still remember what you learned in the army. Fuck, they're using nylon rope to tie me up. They're looking down on me. Rasfa rubbed his arm. After 3 hours, I finally broke the rope. Did you lose your shooting skills? Steven asked. My stamina can't keep up, but I'm still good at shooting. After Steven and Rasfa finished their lines, Chen Zhao used the gun to change the angle of the camera. Then there was a series of gunshots. Rasfa said, I killed 3. I killed 1. Someone else is coming. Oh no, I'm out of bullets. I was too excited just now. I'm out of bullets too. You're really only suitable to be a director. You're wasting bullets. Chen Zhao was now pretending to be a kidnapper. There was no image, only sound. If the audience saw this, they would use their imaginations to their heart's content. They could use their imaginations from their conversation and the sounds of fighting. Crack. First, there was the sound of wood breaking. Then there was the fight between the two old men and the kidnappers. Finally, there was a dull thud. Damn. Grenade, get down. Boom. Stephen. Thank you for saving me. I take back what I said earlier. No, I should be the one apologizing. If I didn't lose my temper in the car today, this wouldn't have happened. The plot was that the two friends had a conflict and a disaster. In the end, they reconciled and fought against the kidnappers together. Chen Zhao dragged a kidnapper over. Then, Rasvi and Stephen started acting again. After this scene, Chen Zhao killed the kidnapper with one punch. The kidnapper screamed, "Ah! Snow White, my Snow White is here. Why is your pet here? Mr. Stephen, sorry I'm late. Bastard, you're finally here. If you didn't come, I would have fired you. Did you bring Snow White here?" "No, White Snow brought me here. It found you. What about the other kidnappers?" "I killed him. Mr. Stephen, did I keep my job?" Finally, the three of them took out the USB flash drive from the camera. The scene finally came to an end. Of course, the good guys won and the bad guys lost. Although the scene looked cliché, the United States advocated individual heroism. For them, there was nothing more interesting than this. And this time, because the fake had become real, the impact of this show was even greater than expected. However, the police were still needed to deal with the aftermath. The next day, the police reported that Stephen and Rasva had been successfully rescued. No one knew what the inside story was. All the media reporters were trying to find out more about the case. But the police had already been warned by Stephen and Rasva. This was a country that cared a lot about privacy. So without their permission, the police would not release what had happened. Stephen and Rasva were not in a hurry to release the video. This was because the news was still very popular. If they released it now, it would just be a flourish. They wanted to create a sensational effect. "Kate, we found a Facebook account called The Great Director's Bodyguard. The owner of this account is probably Mr. Stephen's bodyguard and driver. Take a look." Kate searched the account on Facebook and found that there were a lot of videos there. They were all taken by someone who did not show his face. Most of the videos were taken by Stephen. Most of the time, these videos were taken secretly. Suddenly, the last video of the account caught Kate's attention. This was because a puma named Snow White had appeared in the video. Kate was no stranger to this puma. This seems to be the Chen family's puma, Snow White. How did it become Stephen and his ex-wife's pet? There must be something going on. A smile appeared on Kate's face. She walked to a place without anyone and took out her phone to call Chen Zhao. "Hey Chen." "Hi Kate. How are you? How come you're free to call me today? How's Snow White?" "It's great, but all the kids in my family miss you. If you only say hello to it, the other kids will be very sad." "I saw a video on Facebook with a puma called Snow White in it," Gu Nianji said. I want first-hand inside information." Chen Zhao knew that he could not avoid it, but the news had to be released sooner or later. Rather than letting other reporters take advantage of it, he might as well take advantage of his own people. "When are you and David free?" Chen Zhao asked. "Fei Lai misses you a lot. Tonight then. When David gets off work, we'll go to your house together. Then Fei Lai and I will prepare dinner and wait for you." "David, when do you get off work?" Kate packed her things and was about to go home. "I might be a bit busy today. Chen called me just now and said that he wants to invite us to his house. I agreed for you." "Oh right. You might know something about the kidnapping of director Stephen. That's been on the news for the past 2 days." "Ah, then I'll pack up and we'll go to Mountain Town together." At 6 in the evening, Kate and David went to Mountain Town together. When they reached their house, the two were already there to welcome Kate and David. "Fei Lai, have you gained weight recently?" Kate looked at Fei Lai in confusion. "I'm pregnant." Fei Lai's face was filled with happiness. "Huh, you're pregnant? You have a kid?" "Yes." "Oh my God, when did this happen? Why didn't you tell me?" Kate's eyes were filled with envy. She looked back at David. Chapter 868. You can come to me if you have any problems, but I can't do anything about infertility. When Kite saw little Jerlin waddling out, he immediately went forward and hugged her in surprise. Little Jerlin can actually walk. How old is she? That's because she's my and Faylai's child. Of course, our child is just as outstanding. Little Jerlin had never been afraid of strangers. She would greet everyone with a smile. Moreover, with her cuteness, she could definitely charm anyone. Jerlin had always been Chen Zhao's pride. Every time he heard someone praise little Jerlin as cute, Chen Zhao would feel proud from the bottom of his heart. After dinner, everyone sat together and chatted. Chen, tell me, what's going on with Mr. Stephen's kidnapping? Actually, it was an accident that turned fake into real, Chen Zhao said. Chen Zhao told him the whole story from beginning to end. Everyone was dumbfounded. It was the first time Faylai had heard Chen Zhao mention this. Stephen still has 2 videotapes, Chen Zhao said. When it's time to expose them, you'll do it. Chen, I realize that you always make big news. This was a complete accident. It really was an accident. I was scared to death too. I don't know how I'll explain it to their families if something happens to them. If they do this to me again, I'll kill them first. Chen Zhao said. Do you know Mr. Stephen well? Pretty familiar, right? The killer whale in Sea of Wrath wasn't created with CGI. It was a mon. Ah, I've also watched Sea Sentinel, and I always thought it was made with special effects. David and Kite were no strangers to Detective New High. That was because the theme of the movie was actually derived from the incident that they had personally experienced. In fact, the male and female leads were David and Kate. Carter was already very satisfied with being able to obtain first-hand information. She didn't plan on revealing the truth. From Chen Zhao's explanation, it was actually more dramatic and more sensational to reveal the truth. With her relationship with Chen Zhao, she wouldn't cause trouble for him. The fact that Chen Zhao could tell them the truth meant that he trusted them. Except for Stephen's competitors. The whole world should be cheering for Stephen's rescue. But someone was smashing the TV angrily. This man was the one who hired the kidnappers, Libel. He used to be the male lead of Angry Sea Police. But later, because he offended Chen Zhao, he offended Stephen. His reputation would be completely ruined. Later, because of the miraculous performance of Sea Patrol, it became the laughingstock of Hollywood. Moreover, Stephen's influence was too great. As a result, all the film companies in Hollywood refused to let him take any role. Hatred. Ribble had hated Stephen from then on. This had become his obsession. He shut himself in his house every day. He wanted to take revenge on Stephen and destroy him. However, he also knew that it was impossible for him to succeed with normal methods. Stephen's fame, influence and wealth. It was destined that Libel would not be a threat to him at all. So he decided to use another method. That was why there were 2 kidnappings and attacks. However, both attempts ended in failure. In fact, Stephen had taken advantage of these 2 incidents. This made Stephen's influence even greater. Libel was unwilling. He was extremely unwilling. The hatred and unwillingness in his heart kept growing. Revenge. Since he could not rely on others, he would tear this old guy apart with his own hands. Even if he had to go to hell with him, he would not hesitate. Chen, come here. What now? If you have any other ideas, I'll kill you first. No, I'm going to choose a few bodyguards, so help me see which ones are suitable. I think these people are quite good. But I'm really not good at this aspect, so I can only ask you for help. Don't tell me you're not even willing to help me with such a small matter. Fuck, you have money. You just need to spend some money and find 8 or 10 bodyguards by your side. I believe no one can hurt you. Of course. That's if you don't look for trouble for no reason. What do you mean by looking for trouble for no reason? I'm doing this for our new movie IP. Who do you think Rasfa and I are in danger for? You sound like this new movie has nothing to do with you. Fine. I was wrong. Since you admit your mistake, come and help me choose people. When Chen Zhao arrived, he realized that he was in a studio. There were dozens of people lining up outside. Stephen already had a dozen bodyguards behind him. Hey Chen, you're here. Come and sit here. Chen Zhao sat beside Stephen. Are you choosing bodyguards or actors? Bodyguards, of course, Stephen said matter-of-factly. Do you think I'm joking? Then who are the bodyguards behind you? Rasfa lent them to me. Didn't you already have a group of bodyguards? I fired them. Why? None of them can fight 5 at once. Why would I need them? Chen Zhao rubbed his forehead. What did it mean to fight 5 at once? Before Gaia came into contact with the spiritual world, she could fight 5 at once in a normal fight. What level was Gaia at? She was pretty much one of the top fighters in the world of combat. There were probably only a few in America who could match her level. How much did Steven's bodyguards pay? Not more than $10,000 each. Don't think that being a bodyguard for a famous person would make a lot of money. In fact, they already had a rather high salary. But Steven actually wanted a group of bodyguards at Gaia's level. Unless he was willing to offer a salary of $100,000 or more. Otherwise, he wouldn't be able to attract such experts. I've chosen a few before. They're all about the same. Chen Zhao's face was filled with despair. He felt that Steven was messing with him. Why couldn't Steven, the famous director, be more normal? Whatever. Let the candidate come up. Alright, next up. Just then a tall woman walked up. She was about 1.8 meters tall. She wore a military uniform and had her hair tied in a ponytail. She stood before Steven. Woman, then lower your requirements, Chen Zhao said. Which one of you wants to go up? If she can beat any one of you, she'll pass. The woman's eyes were cold. Hearing Chen Zhao's words, her expression turned as cold as ice. Chapter 869. It was Chen Zhao's first time seeing such an ironclad request. He said to the bodyguards behind him, I'll satisfy you. 5 people. Wait. Steven whispered. She's such a beautiful woman. Go easy on her. You can go easy on her if you need to. Chen Zhao glanced at Steven. You're looking for a bodyguard, not a prostitute. The 5 bodyguards walked onto the stage. Without further ado, they started fighting. Chen Zhao was surprised. Apart from Gaia, this was the first time he'd seen such a good fighter. However, no matter how good she was, she couldn't really beat the 5 bodyguards down. In fact, if the 5 bodyguards hadn't been merciful, the woman would have been down already. Fighting and life and death battles were 2 different things. The woman was very skilled, but she was still lacking in strength. After all, strength depended on the size of the body. Chen Zhao didn't know who was better at fighting, Gaia or this woman. But she definitely couldn't beat Gaia in her normal form. Strength played a crucial role in combat, just like Chen Zhao and Gaia. In the beginning, Chen Zhao had been pressed against the ground by Gaia. But when Chen Zhao's strength reached a certain level, Gaia was no longer his match. Alright, that's enough. You pass. Steven stopped the fight. The woman wasn't unscathed, but she still looked calm. In fact, she didn't expect the interview to be like this. She'd thought that there would only be 2 people to fight with her. She was also confident that she could fight 1 against 2. But she didn't expect the test to be 1 against 5. In the beginning, he had held on for 10 seconds. After that, he had been getting beaten up. Let me introduce myself. Mr. Steven, I'm Fantas. I'm a retired female soldier. I've received professional military training in the Marine Corps. I'm good at fighting and shooting. $15,000 a month. Is that acceptable? Sure, Fantas answered. Okay, come sit here, Steven said. Next. Then a slightly chubby tall man walked in. He bowed to Steven first. Hello, Mr. Steven. I'm Tori, your fan. This is not a meet and greet with my fans, but a job application for my bodyguards. If you are not capable enough, then I will not accept your application, Steven said seriously. Chen Zhao pursed his lips. Steven wasn't this serious when he was talking about Matisse. Steven, this is clearly sexism. Of course, I know this is a bodyguard application. I'm also confident that I can become Mr. Steven's bodyguard. Oh, Steven touched his chin. What are you good at? I might not be able to express myself verbally, so I hope to demonstrate my abilities with my actions, Tori said confidently. Looks like you're very confident. Alright, how do you want to show it? 10 of you, Tori said. Chen Zhao was a bit surprised. Did this man think he could beat 10 people? It doesn't look like it. Could it be that the real person doesn't reveal his true appearance? A glint flashed through Fantas' eyes as well. 10 people, Steven ordered. Okay, you can start. Tori crooked his finger. The 10 people didn't hold back. They started punching and kicking Tori. Tori squatted on the ground, covering his head without fighting back. Stop, stop, stop. Everyone stop. Steven's face darkened. Mr. Tori, didn't you say you wanted to show your abilities? Yes, I'm showing them now. What are you showing me? Getting beaten up. I'm really good at getting beaten up. Mr. Tori, are you serious? Yes, I'm very serious. Then how will you protect me? If there's danger, I can stall the criminals and buy time for Mr. Steven to leave. If they have guns, I can also stand in front of Mr. Steven. What's your original job? Chen Zhao asked curiously. I don't have a job. I used to be a punching bag on the streets. Then what's your ideal salary? Steven asked. He seemed to think that Tori was indeed not bad. Mr. Steven, how much do you think is suitable? 8,000 a month. Okay. Wait. Steven, didn't you call me over to give you a suggestion? Why didn't you ask me? I think they're not bad. I think so too, Famtis said. Famutus said. I think professional matters should be left to professionals, not irrelevant people. Chen is very strong. Steven could tell that Famtis was unhappy with Chen Zhao, so he said on purpose, you definitely can't beat him. Really? Mr. Chen, how about we compete? Do you have money? Chen Zhao asked. What does that have to do with me? I like to have some stakes. If you want to fight me, take out $100,000. Do you have that? Famtis turned his head. If he had that, would he still need to be someone else's bodyguard? The interview continued. Then it was time for Chen Zhao to take over. He didn't care about Steven's objections at all. As long as Chen Zhao thought it was okay, he would make the decision for Steven. All in all, there were 6 bodyguards who looked like they had some ability left behind. These people all had good qualifications and abilities. Not only were they good at fighting, but some were also good with guns or had experience as a bodyguard. Chen Zhao had studied their information thoroughly. He mainly chose experienced bodyguards with good marksmanship and fighting skills. He didn't need them to be invincible. A certain level of skill was enough. Okay, from now on, you'll be Steven's bodyguards. That's all. Chen Zhao stretched. Also, if your boss does something stupid in the future, you have to stop him immediately. For example, knock him out with your fists. That's right. Steven looked at Chen Zhao speechless. Chen, do you think this is enough? How many do you think are suitable? In Chen Zhao's opinion, 8 was the most suitable number. Under normal circumstances, if someone wanted to harm Steven, they wouldn't be able to pass through 8 people. If there was more than one person, Steven could escape under the protection of 8 people. If there was more than one person, Steven could escape under the protection of 8 people. How about you hire an army? That's the most suitable. Famtis looked at Chen Zhao in confusion. She didn't understand the relationship between Chen Zhao and Steven. At first, Famtis thought that Chen Zhao was the first bodyguard she'd applied for. Chapter 870. Chen, how do you usually train? Teach them, Steven said. The 8 new bodyguards behind Steven all had an unconvinced expression on their faces, even though 6 of them had been chosen by Chen Zhao. However, 8 bodyguards were enough to beat Chen Zhao up just because he was single. Only Famtis was the same height as Chen Zhao, but because she was a woman, she was already very tall at 1.8 meters. She would also look very tall. These people more or less knew some combat techniques. And in combat, the size of one's body was very decisive. Unless it was someone like Famtis who had a certain level of technique, the winner would still be decided by body size. So, even Tori, who was good at taking a beating, felt that these 8 people could beat Chen Zhao. I haven't been working out lately. In fact, Chen Zhao would enter the river map after returning home. His physical release in the river map was much greater than normal workouts. Everyone snorted and looked down on Chen Zhao. Some people thought that Chen Zhao had gotten to Chen Zhao's side with some title. Maybe he was a kung fu master or something. They also thought that they could beat Chen Zhao and get Steven's favor. But Chen Zhao couldn't be bothered with their thoughts. You drive every day and have them run behind the car, Chen Zhao answered seriously. That can improve their abilities. I'm asking you seriously. Why do you think I'm not serious? I'm going back. I wasted another 3 hours here. Then Chen Zhao swaggered off. After returning home, Chen Zhao went straight into the river map. Old Turtle, let's start. Old Turtle shrunk the Mystic Ice Domain and Skyfire Domain by another third. Now the Mystic Ice Domain and Skyfire Domain were only 1 kilometer apart, so the length of the ring was 14 kilometers. It was almost half of what it was at the beginning, but the temperature difference had also doubled. Chen Zhao's current speed was almost 250 kilometers per hour. He didn't even need a minute to finish 14 kilometers. What was the concept of Chen Zhao's current speed? According to the current track and field world record, Usain Bolt was almost 9.5 seconds. The fastest Usain Bolt was close to 9.5 seconds. 1 second was about 10.05 meters. Chen Zhao could run almost 70 meters in a second. Of course, Chen Zhao's initial speed couldn't reach this speed. He needed acceleration. Chen Zhao could clearly feel the changes in his body. His own spiritual power began to become viscous. What could be done with 10 points of spiritual power in the past could now be done with 1 point of spiritual power. Right now he could clearly feel the increase in his power. This was the most obvious increase in strength. If he met Abaddon again, he would be able to defeat him even without Blackie's help. In the past, Chen Zhao's increase in strength required a strength test to clearly know whether he had improved or not. But now, he could feel the changes in his limbs. Chen Zhao, you've completed ultimate transformation, but that doesn't mean your training is over. You can continue to challenge Skyfire and Mystic Ice. At the same time, you need to strengthen another aspect of training. What aspect? Precise. Precise? How? Old Turtle suddenly took out a soccer ball and kicked it at Chen Zhao. Chen Zhao caught the ball. What are you doing? Let's play football. Are you sure you're not finding an excuse to make me play with you? Am I that shallow? Yes. Cut the crap. Use your clones. Chen Zhao also used his clones. There were 12 clones at a time. Not bad. You can release 12 clones at once now. The extra one can be the referee. Fine. Since Old Turtle wanted to play, Chen Zhao would play. Chen Zhao and Old Turtle were both playing violent soccer. The soccer ball was always on the verge of breaking. Use spiritual power to stick to the soccer ball. That's how to practice precision. My clones can't use spiritual power. Chen Zhao wasn't like Old Turtle. His clones only inherited Chen Zhao's physical strength. They didn't inherit any spiritual power. To be honest, in terms of pure strength, if Old Turtle didn't suppress his strength, even his clones could beat Chen Zhao up. Their soccer match had no time limit. They played for more than 10 days. They didn't stop at all, except that they had to eat in between. Let's play basketball next time. You're really just playing. Chen Zhao left the river map. The moment he came out, spiritual power surged toward him. It attached itself to Chen Zhao's body. Strange. The spiritual power in the river map was denser than outside, based on the principle of high pressure flowing to low pressure. Why didn't the spiritual power in the river map give him this feeling? Instead, in a normal world, the spiritual power from the outside would gather toward him? Chen Zhao didn't understand. The spiritual power made him feel like he was floating. His body was as light as a swallow. Chen Zhao's heart jumped. He felt like his body was like a magnet, attracting the spiritual power around him. Spiritual power was lighter than air, Chen Zhao thought. This meant that if the spiritual power attached to his body reached a certain level, the density of his body and spiritual power would be lower than that of air. Does that mean that it's really possible to fly in the air? But Chen Zhao estimated that he couldn't fly with his current abilities. If he wanted to float in the air, he would have to increase his magic power by at least 5 times. But this also proved that there were immortals in the legends who could fly in the air. At least in theory, it was possible to fly in the air. Chen Zhao walked out of the living room and looked at the vast mirror lake. Fei Lai was holding little Jerlin and lying on the chair sunbathing. Chen Zhao suddenly sped up and charged toward the lake. Because of his speed, Chen Zhao didn't sink into the water. Fei Lai felt a gust of wind. Turning around, she realized that Chen Zhao was actually running on the lake. Fei Lai's eyes were filled with shock and some admiration. Chen Go! Distracted, Chen Zhao's body sank. He slowed down and fell into the water. Returning to the shore, Feilai's eyes sparkled. Chen, is this magic? I've never seen you use it before. No, it's just speed. Scientists had once calculated that an adult had to run on the water at least 110 kilometers per hour. Chen Zhao had reached that speed, but there were techniques to running on the water. First, he couldn't use too much force. Otherwise, he'd break the membrane and fall into the water. Just then Chen Zhao's phone rang. It was Ethan. Chapter 871. Chen Zhao arrived at a luxurious hotel. There was a big client here, who asked for $300,000. Chen Zhao rarely received such a generous client. So, Chen Zhao really wanted to know who was willing to pay so much money. After reaching the designated floor, Chen Zhao was stopped as soon as he walked out of the elevator. Two people who looked like bodyguards blocked Chen Zhao's way. Sorry, sir, the entire floor is booked. I'm a doctor, Chen Zhao said. Someone inside called me over. Wait, one of the bodyguards said into his earpiece. A moment later, a short man with a big belly jogged out. You're a doctor? The short man asked Chen Zhao. Chen Zhao could tell that the English wasn't pure American English. It seemed to be from Europe. Yes, Ethan recommended me. Follow me, the short man said. At the same time, he said to Chen Zhao in broken English, I hope that everything you see here will be kept secret. Of course, the first rule in our industry is to keep secrets for our clients. I have a very good reputation in this industry. Many clients have received my treatment, and many of them are celebrities. Up until now, I haven't divulged anyone's privacy. That's good. The short man brought Chen Zhao into a luxurious suite. The suite was at least 300 square meters and had 2 floors. The bottom floor was a huge, luxurious living room. In the living room, there was a tall, muscular man. He had one leg on the table, and his face was filled with displeasure. Chen Zhao saw an obvious bruise on the man's leg that was propped up on the table. It was probably a serious muscle injury. It seemed that he was Chen Zhao's client. Chen Zhao walked up. He's my client, right? Yes, you should know him, right? Dominic Hain. Chen Zhao thought about it. I know him. Everyone in Hollywood knows him. Dominic Hain looked up at Chen Zhao. I play soccer, not a Hollywood actor. Okay. Chen Zhao couldn't even recognize all the Hollywood stars, let alone soccer players. Growing up in a soccer desert, Chen Zhao almost never watched soccer. He knew 1 or 2 in China, but overseas he only knew Beckham. He basically didn't know anything else. However, from their tone, it seemed that this person should also be a very famous football player. Of course, Chen Zhao wasn't biased against soccer players or any other athletes. Just because he didn't like them didn't mean he hated them. Chen Zhao admired the athletes who worked hard and sweated hard in every competition. What can I do for you? My leg, Dominic Hain said, pointing at his right leg. Chen Zhao sat beside Dominic Hain. He checked Dominic's right leg, and it seemed to be an old injury. There were traces of the previous treatment. Chen Zhao glanced at Dominic Hain. It's because of the impact, causing the old injury to relapse. There's a serious muscle strain on the inner thigh. Chen Zhao looked up at Dominic Hain. I want to know how this happened. Dominic frowned. You don't need to know how it happened. I just need you to treat me. My eyes are not x-rays. All the diagnosis results can only be based on experience, so if I don't know the cause of the injury, I can't treat it. He got injured on the football field. Dominic came to America to participate in an exhibition match. He should be Dominic Hain's agent. Chen Zhao checked again. No external injuries. His muscles are loose. Mr. Dominic must have just recovered and hasn't done any high-intensity exercise. This shouldn't be the cause of his injury. Facing Chen Zhao's aggressive questioning, Dominic finally relented. Fine. A woman sat on me and hurt me. The short man interrupted Dominic Hain anxiously. That's not important. Besides, I don't want to hear about these rumors outside, the short man said. I've just completed my transfer. My next club is Real Madrid. If news of my old injury relapsing because of me playing with women gets out, then I'm likely to be asked to leave Real Madrid, Dominic Hain said. As an athlete, Dominic Hain did not have as many thoughts as the short man. He was more straightforward. His inner thigh muscle is seriously injured. The original muscle tissue must have been stitched up. It's very troublesome to reopen the wound before it's completely healed. He'll need at least a month to recover. That's impossible. Real Madrid will completely give up on Dominic in a month. They didn't spend 80 million euros just to let him sit on the bench. Any doctor would give you the same answer, Chen Zhao said. Is there no other way? I need Dominic to recover in a week. A month is too long. Chen Zhao glanced at the short man. Sorry, I can't help. Trash useless, the short man cursed. You're wasting my time. Chen Zhao stood up and glanced at the short man. The short man only had a bad mouth, but he did not dare to actually fight. Under Chen Zhao's glare, the short man subconsciously took 2 steps back. What? You want to fight? You'd better figure out what this place is. Chen Zhao turned around and left without a word. I thought you were brave. Seeing that Chen Zhao did not fight, the short man thought that Chen Zhao did not dare to. He started talking nonsense again, as if he was certain that Chen Zhao would not dare to fight. As Chen Zhao left, he took out his phone. Hey Kate, I have news here. A European soccer star played with women in America and hurt himself. Stop him, stop him. The short man immediately yelled. A few bodyguards immediately went up to snatch Chen Zhao's phone. Chen Zhao was already at the door, glancing at the surveillance camera on the walkway. His lips curled up. When the bodyguards moved, Chen Zhao only pushed them away lightly. Seeing that Chen Zhao dared to fight back, the other bodyguard immediately punched him. Chen Zhao lifted a foot and kicked the bodyguard over. The other bodyguards immediately surrounded Chen Zhao. Chen Zhao did not use too much force. But even so, he still managed to defeat all the bodyguards in a few moves. The short man and Dominic Hain were shocked. They did not expect Chen Zhao to be so good at fighting. Don't come over. I'm calling the police. Call the police. Your bodyguard attacked me first, and the surveillance cameras in the hallway recorded it. I'm going to sue you for assault and threats. I'll also expose to the media the fact that Dominic was injured because he was fooling around with women. That you're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support. And don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.